Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 325. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensational and spectacular sensei of the whatnot, Segulin, and the Duke of You Know.
How's it going, eh?
It's going great, and we're talking on this episode about Arrow, the very first episode of Arrow that just kicked off. We also talk through listener voicemails about Red Hood and the Outlaws number 0, Teen Titans number 0. Then we jump to Death of the Family. We couldn't wait to talk about this one. The first two issues, the Prelude in Batgirl number 13, and the coup de grace kickoff in Batman number 13. So it's a very packed episode. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. Sponsoring us this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, they're offering a special of 50% off all DC trades and hardcovers that are brand new, coming out for pre-orders. One of them, seeing as we're talking about Scott Snyder and his work, Batman the Night of the Owls hardcover. This is a $29.99 hardcover. It's 50% off, only $14.99. I want to remind everyone that Comixology is a digital partner with DCBService.com. So if you link your account to your DCB Service account, you get 5% of every one of your purchases towards your DCB Service orders. So you get credit towards DCB Service orders. For those of you that are doing digital shopping, this is a great way to earn credit for free stuff. Over at InStockTrades.com, Batgirl hardcover Volume 1, The Darkest Reflection. This is the first hardcover kicking off the first 6 issues of Batgirl. If you haven't been reading this series, it's a great way to jump into it. $22.99 regularly, 40% off, only $13.79. Remember, orders of $50 or more give you free shipping. Go to their website to check out the amazing deals. I'm a big fan of these Walking Dead hardcovers, too, which I know is outside of DC, but with that series kicking back off on television. They have Book 8. It's 40% off, only $20.99, which those are really great volumes that contain a number of issues of The Walking Dead. That's actually the way that I read the series. It collects issues 85 to 96, so it's a good way to get a nice run of Walking Dead in those volumes. So I just wanted to shout out that site. I just love their collected editions. I just think they do just a tremendous job over at InStockTrades.com. I want to thank both of those sites for supporting our show. Jim, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on the show. So, if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's kick off our chat by talking about Arrow.
So, who's got a camera? Ooh, get one of me and the kid first. Then you and me, then the three of us, and then one with the crowbar. Then...
Jim, I wanted to start off this episode by talking casually about the first episode of Arrow. This show aired last week, and I was really anticipating this. There was that part of myself that was wondering, how are they going to build off of this show with the fact that they introduced Green Arrow so prominently in Smallville. I gotta say, for an opening premiere of an episode of a comic book superhero, I was so incredibly pleased with the balance of this show. I was floored. I watched it immediately twice because I enjoyed it so much the first time that I wanted to go through. And when I say immediately, it was the next evening. I threw it on and ended up watching the episode again, which I don't normally do with television programs. That's not to say that I haven't watched an episode of a program I enjoyed again, but for me, the next night to turn around and watch the same program again with the amount of television I do watch says a lot about the quality of the show. What did you feel about it kicking out of the starting gate?
Oh, God, I am very excited, very pumped for it. And it's hard for me to say this out loud because I am such a Superman guy, but I am more excited over Arrow than I was when Smallville came out. And I loved Smallville. It was a great story, and I even from the beginning, I was always sitting there going, "Yay!" Having my little geek out cheers. But with Arrow, it just hit. It hit like a hammer, and I was just like, "Yes." This isn't Oliver Queen's story. Yeah, it is because Ollie's in there, but this is the story of Green Arrow. And that's what's separating it and just making it more distinction from Smallville. Smallville was Clark Kent. Smallville was the birth of the person who will become Superman. This right here, we're jumped into Green Arrow. And while they gave us his origin and his backstory, there's still a lot of mystery left to play out, plus a lot of future stuff to look forward to. I'm very, very excited over this, and I'm hoping that it's getting the support it deserves.
I agree with that. One of the things that I really like about it, it's funny you made the Smallville comparison. I don't know that I necessarily was feeling differently than I felt with Smallville. I had to go back to when Smallville kicked off to really feel that way. I remember when Smallville hit, one of the things that I really loved about the show was this sense of, I know Superman's history, and I grew up reading the character. I've watched the movies, watched television shows and stuff like that with the character. But I really had this sense of, I didn't know what was going to happen next, what kind of pacing Clark's life was going to take. We got the same thing with this, and that's what I really like. I love that it feels like tried and true Green Arrow. Lots of comic book nods, lots of nods to creators, lots of nods to characters, including Deathstroke's mask on the beach and stuff like that. Nice little Easter eggs in the show throughout that just made you kind of nod and smile. But at the same time, it felt fresh. It felt new. I felt like, what direction are they going with Ollie? With all the stuff with Mom and with the dad and the twists and turns there as far as, the stuff that was being hidden about Queen, the company itself, was just stuff that really kept it fresh. Tommy Merlin being his best friend. Just little tiny, and the sister being Speedy. These were all little tiny things that were great nods back to the comics, while at the same time doing what Smallville, I think, did very well, being accessible to a new person. They threw a lot of stuff at us while not going too crazy. I think there was a lot of great plot development that was accessible, and that was something that I really enjoyed as a fan, the balance of the show. The action was great. It just had everything that I would be looking for in an action program. The fact that it's a Green Arrow show just added to what I thought. It would have been an exciting show without it being a Green Arrow show. Adding in the fact that there were so many comic book nods in there, it just made it a perfect television program for me.
Yeah, they could have very easily made this just a regular vigilante, a guy who's out to right wrongs and fix the injustices of the world. It doesn't have to be Green Arrow. And I think that for me was one of the neat parts about it, that this is a great Green Arrow story, but this is just a baseline of very solid story. And there is that suspension of disbelief, but also believability in the story. And that's part of the neat when you have a normal, everyday person who's honed and who's trained. And that is the part I want to see, because there was more to just that jungle life than just surviving on a desert island. Yeah, you'll learn to use a bow and arrow really good if that's the only way of getting food, but he's at a level beyond that. He's it was that parkour training. It was the hand-to-hand combat. It was just the firing a bow beyond what a quote-unquote normal person could do. He had extra special training in there, and that's part of that mystery that is still out there, part of that mystery that will eventually come down the line in the show. So it's upfront, boom, you hit and you understand where it's going, but there's so many little deviations, little factions this can go off to, that the unknown is an excitability.
Presentation was a huge key for me. That whole training montage where he was in that warehouse that his family, had owned, and he was, was the one that was closed down when they went to that section where there was all the homeless people. The music in all that, as we see this guy doing these pull-ups and then making his own weapons and just the little things that he was doing to get prepared for his mission. that was something that was the key for me, because an action program where you're going to have action sequences like this, if you've got the right music, you get those moments that you get from the best action movies and things that they really stand out for you and they build a mood and emotion. And I thought the soundtrack for this program was particularly well done, because that sequence for me really stood out as being really cool in the way that the music accompanied what was going on screen. I thought that was great.
Oh, big time, big time. And I laugh because, one, I look at this show so differently now than I would have years ago, because I recognize stuff like, the street running, the parkour. I recognize the salmon ladder, that little kind of pull-up chin-up bar where you have to hop, you got to lift your body up and then throw the bar onto the next rung, and there's different stuff from from Ninja Warrior, Sasuke, American Ninja Warrior, whatever you want to call it, the action shows that are on like G4 like that. And I see that stuff I'm seeing online, and just there's some really cool just special effects that aren't really a special effects. It's an actual person doing it. And it could even be the actor doing it. I'm not sure how involved he got into his own physical stunts, but there's actually somebody doing that. And I kind of have an appreciation for the story beyond what I'm seeing, just knowing the fact that this isn't, CGI. This isn't someone hooked up to a wire harness doing it. There's actually a person doing those jumps, doing the flips and the lands, and just the tuck and roll, and just the various, fluidity of motion that you get from, that we are getting just from the stunt side of this. Add on to it, you got some cool story elements that are playing right along with it, that it makes sense that this guy would have this. I was really just physical presence of this. I was really excited and really pumped for it, because I didn't know what to expect, because Green Arrow, you're going to get some trick arrows, you're going to get some trick shots. Yeah, I didn't see this whole other physical side of it.
That tennis ball thing was great.
Oh, big time.
When he was firing at those tennis balls, I thought it was just such an awesome sequence. You knew what was coming, like the second the tennis balls were thrown. But to me, knowing what's coming and then seeing the execution of it and having it deliver like that was just, to me, really cool. There were so many moments where I was like, yeah, wow. And while this great drama is being crafted around, we'll talk about the supporting cast soon, that was something that I really loved. Like, the right action beats were there in the opening episode, and that's something, it felt very comic book to me in its presentation, which is something that I really loved in the way that it was scripted.
Oh, big time, big time. And I like the fact that how they jumped around a little bit, and we didn't get everything up front. We first see him on the island. We see him after he's been there 5 years, the long bushy beard, and after everything he's gone through. Then you get some later flashbacks with him in the boat. You get some later flashbacks with him and his girl. You get some other flashbacks.
Not his girl.
What?
Not his girl.
Well, she was at the time.
Yeah, no. This was the this was absolutely the friend of his, because his girl was still at home.
Well, this was the sister of his girl, Hey, at the time, I would say she was his girl. You're half naked, lying in bed with the guy. I'm gonna say, yeah, you're his girl.
Okay. One of the things that I really liked about how that played out was we didn't know yet that was going to be Dinah Laurel Lance's sister. And I love how that played in. And you can see why she would be obviously infuriated with him when he comes back. But I also loved the twist that we didn't know that detective that was first doing the interview with him after he'd been kidnapped was the dad of both girls. That was a neat twist that they threw in as well, without us knowing that. You talked about how not everything was revealed right away. Things jumped around. I thought that there was a lot introduced in the first episode, and there was a lot that makes you anticipate the second, third, fourth, the rest of the series, where this is going to go. That's really a key. You don't want to give me too much, but you also don't want to give me too little. There was a great sense of I thought there was a great sense of balance in the show.
Oh, big time, big time. And I will admit that, with the whole Dinah, I didn't think that was Dinah. I thought they were changing a different name. I'm like, okay, they're going to personalize it for the show. And then when he said Dinah Laurel Lance, I howled. I cheered. I was hooping and hollering. I'm like, yes, yes. And my first thought is immediately going, okay, she's going to have some skills, some skills as a fighter probably, or maybe that'll develop eventually. But what about the canary cry? Is she going to get it? Is that, and I immediately started thinking that whole line of, possibilities. Are they going to introduce meta powers? Are they going to introduce, her in that way? Will she ever become Black Canary, or will she always be just Dinah, his girlfriend, friend who's a girl, person who wants to beat him up because he royally screwed her over? That crazy dynamic that those two always have. I was really excited and really pumped for that.
She was already forgiving him, though, by the end of the episode. Forgiving may be a strong word, but she was opening the door. She came to that party with the intention of making a tentative peace, because she even said, if you need to talk, call me, which to me says there's a road to forgiveness that's going on here, or a road maybe to reaching an understanding. Forgiveness might be a very strong word, but reaching an understanding. And he was the one that pushed her away, knowing where he was going, what his mission was going to be, that he couldn't put her in that place. Or maybe he couldn't be himself, because when he's Oliver Queen, he's clearly a different animal than when he's Green Arrow, and he has to protect that duality of that. So that was the mask. The second that he did that with her in that moment, he was putting on his mask for the first time as Oliver Queen. I thought that was really great how that played out. The laurel was the clue for me that it was Dinah, because that being her middle name.
See, I didn't know that. I had no idea that was her middle name in the comic universe. I just knew her as Dinah. So that, for me, was a wonderful, surprise. And I liked how they explained why she was so angry at him. Yeah, he went away with her sister, and her sister died. But I love the fact that she's like, I couldn't hate her. I couldn't be angry at you because you both were dead. And I couldn't mourn her because I was so angry. She really just had just this nasty combination of, you can't forgive, but you can't, let go. And it was just, there's no chance for her to move on. And that's her blood. So you got that natural guilt of, I should be forgiving her, I should be mourning her, but I'm still angry at her. And she never had that confrontation. She never will have that final confrontation with her sister. I love the fact that they brought that in.
I like that his sister's nickname was Speedy, and that she's going through the drug sequence. And I love that the cause of a lot of that is her own lack of a support group when the brother was gone, the father was gone. We're learning a lot more at the end of the episode about Mom. And I know I'm jumping to this now, but I think we have to address this when it comes to the sister. Because the mom's moved on with this Walter Steele. Well, convenient, isn't it, that they've moved on? I mean, now, it's 5 years, right? Wasn't that the time frame?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a long time. So Mom is entitled to move on at this point and to have this new relationship. But with what we know about Mom later, the question is, what was Mom's role in all of this? How much did she know? What was her relationship really like with Dad? Were they still close? Or was Dad's having second thoughts something that, was causing a rift between them? We don't know. That's part of the mystery of this show. Like, how in deep is Mom? She wants to know what Oliver knows. How evil is she? Is she bad? Is she evil? Is she a gray area? What is her deal? It seemed very ominous at the end, but, to have her son kidnapped. And obviously I don't think the purpose was obviously to kill her son, because they were using the dart guns to take them out and knock them out cold. But obviously, to get that information, how far would she have gone? And how far will she go to continue that process going? I don't know. It's an interesting show in the way that that's developing, because that's a twist that I've never seen before in Green Arrow.
Yeah, that's, I kind of like the fact that we have the evil mother and not the evil father. Because usually when you start looking at a lot of the stories outside of just various universes, it's usually the father that's the evil, maniacal person, and the mother's the caring, loving, nurturing person. And I kind of like the fact that we have a chance of flipping that around, and we have a chance that the mother could be evil here. Now, I don't know for certain yet if she is or not. On one hand, when I initially saw that, my first reaction was like, oh, cool, we're going to get an evil mom. All right. But then after second watching, I was kind of like, okay, maybe this isn't completely evil mom. Maybe there is a gray area to her. Maybe there is something worth saving. And I think it's going to be one of those as it plays out. When we start getting further into it, we see how close she is to the machine that's that's darkening the Starling City. Because if she's just a player in the game, there's a chance. But if she's like a kingpin of it, if she's one of the mob bosses, then there may not be a good. This may not end well for Ollie and his mom. There may be a bad parting of ways, so to speak, between the two of them.
It was funny when at the dinner table, he mentioned to Mom that he wanted to go back to the company, and Walter spoke up. It's funny watching it the second time. My questioning was Walter speaking up because he was in more of the active role at that time, the dominant role, or was he speaking up to cover for Mom? Which may, because you see that on a possibility on a different level there, where maybe Mom's running the show, he's behind the scenes, and he knew if he spoke up, it further covers Mom. I don't know. It's interesting to see where that relationship's going to go and how big of a deal, which one is the dominant in that relationship, or are they true partners? I don't know. So I'm very curious to see where that goes.
Yeah, see, I was completely taking it that she was the dominant on that partner in that relationship, and Walter was kind of the face, he wasn't actually in charge of things, but I think Mom's running the show, but making it look like Walter's in charge. He's the puppet, for her puppet mastery is, again, that's me looking at her more evil than what we have actual evidence for, but
her running
that's
the
how
show,
I was initially taking it.
Her running the show doesn't make her evil.
True, but her running the show in secret with him as the face does add towards puppet mastery as well as evilness.
Absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see where that relationship goes. We got to talk a little bit about Tommy Merlin.
Yeah.
That guy's bad news.
See, I'm wondering, how bad news is he going to be? Because, he seems a little bit on the smarmy side. There's a little bit in references to, he's the playboy, he's the,
There were references from the police that he drugged girls to get them into,
True. And if he actually does that,
you're that well known. You're well known from the police that they're making that kind of call about you. I don't know. Go ahead.
Well, part of me kind of thinks that could just be a frat boy comment, because I know a lot of people have made just general comments to general, frat boys about, time for another weekend date rape, and just an offhand comment about, the guys who are more. Who are looking for more of a frivolous relationship with females, saying, they're just after one thing, they're not after relationships, they're not, and it just, part of me took it could be more of a comment like that. Part of it could be he could be an evil SOB who could be drugging and raping women, and in that case, I hope something horrific happens to him. But it's one of those things where we don't know the whole story of what's playing out. Also, remember the source of the comments was the very jaded and angry and obviously, and rightly so disgruntled father throwing this out. It wasn't like just some cop off the beat.
Wait, though. Why would he be mad at Tommy?
Because he's best friends with Queen. Anyone associated with Queen is automatically his enemy.
See, and I didn't get at all. Any of his comments were in his association with Queen. He never referenced him. It seemed like he was talking about Tommy Merlin, the history before Ollie came back. Like he already had Tommy on the radar before Ollie had returned. So that was the way I took it. Maybe I'm taking it differently than you are, and that's okay. So I don't know. There's some about him. Like even when here's another example of evidence where I'm taking like this guy might be somebody to really watch. First of all, I really took it that he was playing Ollie and Dinah against each other and taking advantage of that situation for his own purposes, which no tried and true honorable friend does. The other thing that he was doing, remember when Ollie was kidnapped and freed himself, by undoing his hand, which I thought was super awesome. I knew that was coming too. But to see that way that it was executed, where that's Stephen, is it Amell is his name, the actor who played Oliver Queen. I just adored him. I thought he was really great. I loved the pacing of him freeing himself when he's being questioned. And when the hands finally got free and you saw some, again, that parkour-style fighting, I don't know what it's really called, don't really care. It just looked super cool, the way that was all playing out. But he checked Tommy first, which I loved. You know, grabbed behind the back of the neck to see if there was a pulse. Tommy's eyes were open right as he was walking away. And my question right there immediately was, how long was that dude playing possum? Or was he really just coming to at that point? And that's something that I think we're going to find out over time. You know, and I could be totally reaching on that one. He might not have been playing possum. He might have actually been coming awake, and his honest, when the police were questioning them, his responses were honest, that he wasn't awake for all of that. But it seemed awfully convenient, and it seemed like, why would you have his eyes flickering open at that time if you didn't want us to notice it? If you wanted us to think this guy was really out cold?
Yeah. I think he was completely faking there and I don't know how long he was awake. My guess is right around the time of Ollie was beating the crud out of everybody, that's when he came around. So he witnessed his friend completely decimate those guys in that room. So there is a little bit of questionability of his character because he didn't let Ollie know he was awake, and how much. You know, there is some definite. He's not 100% true blue friend.
But his last name's a giveaway too, Merlin.
Yeah,
I mean, he's obviously going to become Ollie's enemy at some point.
Eventually. But it's, again, I think back to how, like, with 52, with when they introduced Merlin into that whole mix, and we see that he and Ollie were friends in the comic. And you see he wasn't a bad guy. He just, circumstances turned him that way. Now, this Merlin in the TV show, yeah, there are some character flaws and there are some questionabilities to him. So I would not be shocked and or surprised if they completely went that direction. But part of me does wonder if he's kind of like on that road that, you know, you think about Lex Luthor when they first introduced his character. There was some possibility of goodness. There was some positive qualities that maybe could have come out. Maybe he could have gone down a different road. I kind of see, you know, Tommy the same way, where there is a chance that he may actually become a good guy. He may actually become a stand-up person. Now, if the comic book tells us anything, he's not going to. But I like the fact that there's this chance of it.
There's also a possibility he's in it with the mom and Walter, and that he's staying close to Ollie and asking the questions about what happened to him on the island as a way to try and get more information from Ollie. Because notice Ollie's dodging his questions. He won't answer Tommy when Tommy asks. So what does that mean?
Oh, definitely. You know, he could, as I said, I would not be shocked if they went that route, and if he was a scumbag.
Sure.
But, you know, I like the fact that it's not 100% certain yet.
And I agree with you. I should say, I'm not totally disputing you. I agree that one of the things I like about this show is that this is all speculation. These are all possibilities. Everything you're saying could be 100% true. He could be a tried and true good guy. And the funny part was, for every moment where I was questioning him, there were also moments where I was really digging the character. He adds something to the dynamic that's unique when he's with Ollie. He's a glimpse into Ollie's world before he had everything go on in the island, and I really liked that. So he's a good character for a variety of different purposes, depending on what route they go with him. So I actually am echoing more of what you're saying than I'm disputing it. But he is a character that's on my target list. You know, especially when you see with Mom, I think all bets are off with a lot of people in all of this.
Here's a question for you. Let me throw it out to you.
Sure.
The bodyguard that Mom hired, is he still alive or did he kill him?
Oh, he knocked him out. You're talking about the guy when he went back into there? He knocked him out.
Oh, okay.
I took it that he knocked out Diggs because, honestly, at this point in time, wouldn't he be arrested? He's got a bodyguard who's tracking him because of Mom, and this bodyguard winds up killed. Who's suspect number one? Well, last person who's seen with him would be Ollie. That's if they ever find the body. You think about it. Ollie, you know,
killed those kidnappers because he didn't want them to spill the beans as to what he was able to do.
The bodyguard doesn't know anything, though.
Well, I was thinking that as well until, again, the second watch through when they had that little when he go right before knocking him out. Diggs knows he's up to something. Knows that he's not what he appears to be.
He killed killers, though. See, honestly, the show loses its whole premise if he's killing good people. I don't see him at all killing Diggs because there's nothing with Diggs. Diggs is a straight-up guy. I think that was something that was really clear. If there's one guy in the whole show right now that you can pretty much so count on, Diggs is exactly everything he said he was. Now, for Ollie, who's trying to do these things undercover and all that, Diggs gets in the way. And I think there was a certain humor element put in there for us as the viewer with Diggs. You know, for the purpose of saying, okay, how's Ollie going to sneak away from him now? I totally took it in that moment that Ollie knocked him out because, honestly, how are you going to rally behind a guy that's killing innocent people to cover his secret? I don't see that being a hero you can get behind. We saw with those guys with the masks that we're referring to that he killed to cover his secret. And this is a distinction because it does play back into Green Arrow comic book history. Green Arrow has killed before using the bow in the comics. That's something that was prevalent in many runs of Green Arrow. It's a line that you sit there and say, okay, this is where he really becomes a vigilante, and is that okay? Well, it's Green Arrow and using a bow and arrow that's going to happen. It was in some of the, like the Mike Grell run and stuff like that where he would. But he's not going around killing innocent people. Those guys took machine guns and were blowing away any innocent people who were getting in their way when they were trying to kidnap Tommy and Ollie. So you can say Ollie only killed people who were killers. So there's still a premise that Ollie is a vigilante, but at least, if you sit there and go through the justification, well, what gives him the right to be judge, jury, and executioner, you can still get behind him and say, but at least he's only killing bad guys. Once you have him kill somebody like Diggs, it's hard to get behind this guy and look at him as Green Arrow. Now, is that an interesting premise for a television series with a character where you're sitting there saying, okay, he's a vigilante, he's willing to even kill good guys to cover up his secret? If it's not Green Arrow, I think that could work on a show where you sit there and say, well, now we've got a really moral ambiguity here with the guy. You can't do that with Green Arrow. There's no way he killed Diggs. I just don't see that. I see him knocking Diggs out. I mean, you're asking me the question. I'm just giving you, this is what my take is on it, and that's what my answer is. You don't have to agree with it. Well, I'm convinced that Diggs is going to be in the next episode. He's going to be unhappy. He's going to try to find new ways to keep an eye on Ollie. But I did not take the relationship as adversarial. I took it as Ollie needed to react quickly because he was on a time frame.
And I will actually agree with your assessment. I don't think Diggs is dead. I just kind of threw it out there because I was kind of curious to see how you would respond to it, to be honest. And the one comment you made about how would it be interesting for a vigilante to do this and how would it be an interesting TV show, that was the thing that kind of really spurned it in me, because this TV show isn't just throwing out the Green Arrow character. This is about a guy who is a vigilante, and this is, it's not just the Green Arrow universe. They are kind of, pushing it out there and stretching it out there and just kind of giving you a different opinion and a different mindset of Green Arrow. So I don't think he did it. I think next issue will be, and I think it's going to be an ongoing plot where eventually he's just going to go, listen, I'm going to be over there. You call me when you need me. And I think eventually you were kind of going to get a sort of partnership, a covering maybe, and who knows, even, I don't want to say sidekick, but it kind of that assistant sort of relationship between the two of them.
And I hope we get that. I think one of the things, I totally agree with everything you said. One of the things I really liked about the first episode is he didn't cross any lines that Green Arrow hasn't crossed before in some variation of the storytelling with Green Arrow. Which is why I'm saying, did he kill those people to cover his secret? Absolutely he did, but they were killers. I would have a major issue with this character, if you're going to label him Green Arrow, if he killed an innocent. Now, if there's an accidental killing of an innocent where you see him traumatized about it, and that's an interesting story, and you're still within the realm of okay, he's a superhero, and how will he get past that? But with the whole Dig situation, there was nothing accidental about that at all. I actually am curious to see the aftershock of all that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, the show is setting up for the next week and the next hit, and it keeps it going. Now, the one thing I am, wondering if they're going to keep doing is, the Freak of the Week. We had, Smallville, we had the meteor rock, affected person every week. Here we have his list of bad guys that he's going to check off. So I'm wondering if they're going to keep going with that, or if they're going to let this kind of get a life of its own. And because we got a lot of characters to flesh out, we got a lot of different people to delve into, and just where they are at and who they are. So I don't know if they need to every week do another name on the list, and I'm curious to see where this path is going to go.
I am too. It's an interesting show, and the relationship with Dinah Lance, I loved how he did the whole Robin Hood thing. I loved the Arrow being a technology piece that stole the money.
Yeah.
I loved how that was something that, and then he was releasing it, didn't take any for himself. He was releasing it all to the victims. That was Adam Hunt. Was that the name of the character?
Yeah.
I loved how that all played out. He gave Hunt a chance to give the money up himself, and when he did, Ollie just took it and then returned it to those people. And seeing the smile on Dinah's face when that all happened, and seeing how, okay, these are two people that eventually could find their way back to each other. I'm going to be curious to see if the show goes to them becoming a couple, or if it's going to be this constant roller coaster between the two of them where they wind up together for a little while and then, Ollie becomes Ollie. How that's all going to play out. Because it's interesting in a comic to do that. You want to be very careful that you don't want to take the lead character of Oliver Queen and make him unlikable. There's a nice balance with the guy that we realize that he's goofed up and probably goofed up a lot in his life, but we can get behind his cause of revenge. He's going to extremes that realistically you're sitting there saying, should he be doing this? Well, no, probably not. But you can at least rally behind him because it's that sense of we all wish we could have that kind of empowerment in our life to be able to kind of take things in our own hands like that. So I get all that. That's where the show gets interesting to me, is to see how they play around with those things, how they play around with the relationship. I want to see more development of Dinah Lance. I want to see more development of Tommy Merlin, the family, things like that along the way. This show has an interesting supporting cast. The Detective Lance, Dinah's father. Yeah. What is his relationship? We don't know what his relationship's like with Dinah. Do they have a strong relationship? Do they not? The detective looks like, just from looking at IMDb, he's part of 8 episodes. So, and of the 9 that they seem to have listed on here. So this is obviously an important character to the series. So I'm very curious to see what their relationship's like. And, has the death of the daughter put a strain on their relationship, brought them closer together? Is he protective of Dinah? I'm very curious to see what their relationship's like. That's an interesting twist that gives the character of Dinah Lance some legs beyond the typical role of being, because I'm a big fan of Dinah Lance. And whether you give her the canary cry or not, they've made her already a strong character out of the starting gate. I love the actress that Katie Cassidy playing Dinah Lance. I think she's a great actress to play the character so far. In the first episode, strong woman. I like that. Yet you can tell that there is strong feelings for Ollie. This is somebody who she's been in love with, and there's a relationship there with the two of them. And she sees the side of him that you can chip away through that nonsense. She sees the best in him. And, Ollie makes the point of saying to her, you've always seen the best of me, which means she's also seen a lot of the worst of him as well. And that was something that I really enjoyed about the whole thing, was how it felt so true to their relationship in the comics. And that's hard to do, while making sure that both characters seem strong and likable. And that really was a success of the first episode, because these are characters who are very important to me. And like I said at the beginning, this could have been about any vigilante, in the way that the show was crafted, because it was very accessible. But when they add those little tiny pieces that make it a definite Green Arrow show, you've got to handle those well, and they did that. And that was where it really struck me as something special. I encourage anybody, if you pass this up because you're kind of like, I don't know, Smallville wasn't my thing, or, I just didn't, I saw the preview of it, it didn't look like my thing. Give the show a chance, because I really do think out of the starting gate, it was a really interesting setup for a series. And I think there's a lot of potential for this. Also, please encourage some friends of yours who aren't comic book fans, who like action-style shows with good drama like this, to give it a shot. Because this is one of those programs that, and Smallville really succeeded in this, is accessible to a larger audience than just us, the typical diehard comic fans. And for a show like this to stick around, for these shows to be successful, for us to get Amazon, I know is one of the ones rumored to be coming, in a Wonder Woman series that I think they're pitching now, Amazon, which is a Smallville style Wonder Woman series. I hope that show gets made if they're doing this kind of thing.
Okay,
because this is what I love about this show is how different it is from Smallville. I loved Smallville. I already got Smallville. Smallville was great. I didn't want to see Smallville 2. I wanted to see something different. This was different, with having all the qualities that I think worked in a Smallville show, with the accessibility. That's the key. Yet it does feel like something completely fresh and different. This is a show I'd recommend to people watching Person of Interest, for example, which is another program that I really adore. I think anybody who's watching that show could easily jump on this and find a good time in this program, because it's different enough from that show, but yet it still falls somewhere in the same vein that I think it wouldn't be too far of a stretch to get somebody who's watching that program and digging it, or somebody who like 24, for example, I think could find a lot to dig in this show. Because, it's not, a cookie-cutter version of that show, but it's got enough fresh and new that it'll fit. I don't know. Those are my takes on it. I just really loved it.
Be a good boy, finish your homework, and be in bed by 9. And hey, please tell the big man I said hello.
Jim, we got a gift here, and I want to read the message. This is from Corey Moore. Sean and Jim, thanks for a great podcast. I feel like we are old friends, even though we've never met. If we are ever at the Emerald City Comic Con at the same time, I would like to buy you guys a beer and talk comics. Take care, Corey Moore. And I just wanted to say thank you, first of all, for the kind note. And he actually has some personal gifts for us that I wanted to. I haven't opened them yet. I figured I'd wait till the podcast to actually unveil them. But it's funny, he talked about how, as listening to the podcast, that he feels like, old friends of ours. We've had the good fortune to run into friends of the show at cons, people who we hadn't met before other than they were podcast listeners. And it's funny how we have discussions with them, and it does feel like we've known each other for so long. And I think the key is, for anybody that listens to this podcast, whether you're a casual listener, listen once or twice, or you listen every week, one of the reasons you're listening to this podcast is we have similar interests in comics in general, and obviously into DC-related material. That's why people listen to this show. So I think when we meet, we have that natural connection over having these common interests, and I think it just leads to great conversations. I've genuinely felt that way from every listener and friend that I've met who listen to this podcast at conventions. I really felt like we were old friends who were just reconnecting, and it's one of the great things I love about the podcast. So the feeling, even though we haven't met, Corey, is very, very mutual, because I just know that that's the kind of relationship that we're lucky enough to have. That's one of the things I do love about podcasting. I feel we reach friends that we wouldn't normally be able to get introduced to. Here's what he got for you. Superman #1, it's CGC 9.8. It's from the New 52. With the George Perez, Jesus Marino. Yeah, this is a very cool gift. And this was specifically labeled for you. So,
thank you very much.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
What a nice gift. And then let me see what he got for me. Oh, Batman #1, Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo. Wow. See, when I felt them, like when I was because I pulled them out of he had a larger box, and then he individually wrapped these. They felt like the CGC containers in there. And that was super cool. So I really appreciate that, because that's something I love. These if you haven't had a chance to get those CGC books, they come in these really cool, hard, like hermetically sealed plastic shells that are pretty awesome. And then he gave us a gift that we said we can arm wrestle for. It's Tomb of Dracula #1, 8.5 CGC, which is awesome. And it's also Jonah Hex #1. CGC 9.0 from 1977. So that's really cool.
Okay.
So we'll have to arm wrestle for this. This is really, really cool.
Looks like I'm going to have to start working out.
Yeah. But you know what? Honestly, with either choice, nobody's a loser.
Yeah, you're a winner either way. So
Yeah, I mean, this is Jerry Conway's story, Gene Colan art, Neil Adams cover for The Tomb of Dracula. And this is Jose Luis Garcia Lopez cover and art for Jonah Hex. I mean, you just can't... How do you go wrong with that? That's like super cool. So Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I didn't know what he had gotten in there because I wanted to leave kind of the surprise for when we recorded, but that's really, we appreciate that because, on podcasts, and this is true of any podcast, not just our show, 95% of the podcasts out there, we don't make money doing this. We do this out of a love for the medium. Because, we're very niche within a niche. Comics are a niche, and then we're a niche within the niche. So there isn't a lot of money to be had. There are shows who've successfully done it, but they tend to be more open-ended than, like, our show is DC specific, and we knew going into this wasn't going to be a moneymaker for us. We are very lucky to have a sponsor that helps offset our costs, but even podcasts are a very expensive thing if you do it as much as we do. If you do like a weekly show and all that, you're making a financial commitment. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's probably weekly shows that can do it a lot more to budget because they don't talk as much as we do. But honestly, it's stuff like this and meeting people at conventions and talking to people on Facebook and having crazy debates where we're, tearing each other's heads off and stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff that makes this fun. The interactivity that we have, even if you just listen to the show. I really appreciate when I see our show stats and I see how many people take the time to download this programming. The fact that you find value in what we do to keep coming back every week and listening to our show or listening casually, however you digest our content, that's the kind of stuff that's been a real thrill for me. I mean, we're 6.5 years in now, and which is stunning to me that we're still in 325 episodes and people keep coming back, and we really, really do appreciate that. And Corey, I just wanted to thank you for the great gifts. They were really a shock and very generous and completely unnecessary, but we love you to death for it. I mean, that was really cool.
Yeah, I really thank you. One, thank you very much, and two, it's one of the neat things that I always kind of, when I'm talking at work about, friends of mine and, I was talking about a buddy of mine and this and that. And usually at some point in time, they'll ask me, okay, now is this a buddy that you've actually met in real life or is this an internet buddy? I'm like, well, this is a guy from the podcast. Yeah, I haven't actually met them yet, but they're friends. And you have that connection, that friendship where you'll sit there and I know these people, they know me. Heck, if you're listening to this show and you've listened from the beginning, you got a pretty good understanding of who I am. You probably know me better than people who've known me my entire life, and probably even close, you probably know me more than family members know me. So it's this very personalization of who we are. We're just out there. We throw it out there and you guys appreciate it, you enjoy it, you come back for more. And it's just, it's very, very grateful that there's somebody out there who actually wants to listen to the sound of my voice. Thank you very much.
One thing casually we can probably, did you get a chance to watch The Dark Knight Returns, Part 1?
I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, no.
We're going to do, and I'm kind of deliberately doing this, we're going to do like a really comprehensive episode when the second part comes out. And what I'd like to do is cover both parts of it, but also like read the comic series that inspired it and kind of do like a compare and contrast like we've done previously, like we did back with Justice League, that New Frontier.
Yeah.
Remember how we read both and did a kind of compare and contrast with that? I think it'd be fun to do the same thing with this. So I think that's our plan when the second part comes out, to do that. I watched it and adored it. I think it's like, I'm floored that you haven't watched it yet. And you're going to be kicking and this isn't knocking, I'm just telling you, when you watch it, you're going to be like, what was I thinking waiting to watch this? Like, I should have stopped life. It's really that good. I'm a big fan of these animated features. I don't know if it's really that they're getting better at each time, or if it's just that the new one is so fresh that I'm really just excited for the new one when it comes out. I don't know which realm it fits into, but this one felt like when I was done with it, I'm like, wow, this was absolutely, if it's not the best, it's one of the, on the short list of the best ones. I watched it already 3 times, and the only reason why I'm even mentioning that, I haven't had a chance to watch it lately. When it came out within the first week, I had watched it 3 times. And that was something I'd done, and I started watching it a 4th. I didn't have a chance to finish watching it the 4th, just because life got in the way. But that's funny how that's my life got in the way. I couldn't watch it a 4th time. It's really that good. And I'm a Batman junkie, but I thought, you're taking an iconic piece of work like Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. This made me feel like I was back in high school when this was being released again. I remember the coolness factor of when this book came out and the emotional feeling. And I've reread the series since then a bunch of times. And this isn't a knock on the series. It's hard to recapture that fresh feeling that you have when you first read something that's that cool. This video, or direct-to-DVD feature, however you want to term it, it, for me, took me back to that feeling. Seeing the I thought the casting was terrific. So I'm deliberately staying general and not doing any spoilers here because I don't want to ruin it for you, and I'm not listing at the beginning of the episode as anything, other than to say if there's anybody who hasn't tried these direct-to-video releases, this is the one. Get on this one and really try it, because it's whether you've read Dark Knight Returns or not, it's great. And doing this in a 2-parter, I don't know how else they could have done it. And it's great because the first part feels complete. Like, there's a complete story being told there, and it's clear that, you're at, like, the midpoint at the end. Like, there's more story to be had, but you really feel satisfied at the end, like you've gotten something substantial, which that was something that really impressed me, because I thought, we're going to be left with this big cliffhanger, and that's going to be, like, pain. It did. No, not at all. It's like, those well-paced movies where they're clearly geared at the beginning to have multiple parts, yet they really find a way to be satisfying. This really did that. So we're going to definitely talk about it. I don't know if you agree with that. I think that, to me, seems the way to do it. Let's tackle the whole thing together and look at the book. You want to do that?
Okay. Oh, definitely. Yeah. And it's funny. Part of the reason I haven't watched it yet is because my DVR is still, my DVD player is still not connected to my TV. From when I moved here, how many months ago? It's been what, and it's not even like it's a difficult setup. I just literally have to take it from the one room down into my family room, plug in, 3 jacks and done.
Right. Red goes to red.
Yeah, red goes to red, yellow to yellow, and white to white. Done. Yeah, and
that's
all I gotta do. And
if you have any issues, you plugged one of them in the wrong spot.
Right. So I just got to do it, and once I do that, then I'll watch it, because I have one in my computer, but for my computer monitor isn't. I don't have a large enough one, so I wanted to watch it on my TV downstairs, and so I either got to get off the stick and plug it in, or just play it on my computer and watch it on my computer.
Do it, dude. Here's one I'll completely defend you. Get the DVD player hooked up and watch it on your TV, because you're going to want to see it on a larger screen. It's one of those, like, if you watch it on your computer, you're going to be like, what am I doing? That's what you do if you don't have a TV. You watch it that way. Then I would sit there and say, oh, good, go ahead and do that, dude. No, you're going to want to, like, sit down and, like, really get comfy and get into this movie, because it's really just well done. It's cool.
Yo, Jimmy Sean, this is Isaiah. I'm a first-time caller. Been listening to the show for a while now, and I really like the new 52. I mean, it's awesome. Got me into reading comics and everything. And the Zero issues, as a whole, I was kind of, didn't know how to feel about them. But after I read them, they gave you more insight on the universe as a whole. And not only that, it's a perfect introduction, and it's a perfect flow into what most people are calling season 2. But the book that's got me the most hyped up right now has been Green Arrow. Green Arrow Zero, I agree with a lot of what you guys were saying about how it shows you why Oliver Queen became Green Arrow. I mean, yeah, he was a kind of a brat, spoiled. He was just, messing around to get his dad angry. But after what happened, you see why he becomes the Green Arrow. But not only that, but like when you guys were saying how you still haven't seen how he has matured yet, or enough of matured. I would totally disagree with that. Like in a lot of issues, like I think issue number 11, when Arrow meets the Dark Arrows, that's a perfect example of how you see Oliver Queen transition. If you go back and read those issues after the first issue, on how he's matured. One of the things is he stops the Dark Arrows from doing what they're doing for the most part because he himself, at one point in time, went in brash, thinking that he had a good cause, which was the truth. But he didn't know he didn't know what he was doing, and he got people hurt to him, Merlin and the girl he was dating. And so he stopped that girl who was in the same type of predicament as him, rich, spoiled, just want to get back at dad, from making the same type of mistake he did. I'm really hoping that Ann Nesenti goes back on that and brings that into it as bringing her in as the next Speedy. As because you know that the way they set it up, she's going to come back again. And at that same time, you also see him just like the various methods. Like in that same issue, Oliver has the conversation with the girl in the bar after busting the Dark Arrows. You kind of see how he's matured, and well, he's talking about the movement, the Occupy movement, saying how they need they need a leader and everything. You kind of see that like on a scale that even though he does all this crazy, stupid stuff as Green Arrow, going around risking his life, at the same time, he understands, just politics. He understands what you need to do to get it done. And that's kind of a throwback to, Mayor Oliver Queen and whatnot. And you kind of see how he's going to grow up to become the man that, you like older readers know and love him to be. And, like, finally, just Green Arrow has been a really good book. The art, I was kind of iffy on this issue. I mean, I like it. I was hoping that the style of it would be how Captain Adams was. And at the same time, I'm probably in the minority here, just going off, what I've read on CBR. But I really liked Harvey Tabalo's work. It brought in this very kinetic, lively, energetic feel that Green Arrow needs. I mean, it works so great that Green Arrow, he's a guy who's always on the move. Unlike Batman, he's also a millionaire like Batman, but unlike Batman, he's not stuck to this one city where, Bruce is all brooding, like Gotham is my place, I have to protect Gotham. He only really goes out of Gotham for, like, league business. But the joy of Green Arrow is, like in the city's first issue, he knows that it's an obvious trap with Skylarks, but he's like, well, what the hell? And he gets in, goes, flies. Gets stuck in Alaska with a drunken bear. That is what Oliver Queen is to me. He's James Bond, Batman, Tony Stark, all rolled up into one, where he knows he has the skills of those and he has the maturity of those, but at the same time, he doesn't have what keeps those guys from being inherently fun. And so, yeah, I just wanted to get that off my chest. Green Arrow has been a great book. I'm really looking forward to what Ann Nesenti is going to do going forward with, him just jumping around town and everything. I'm hoping that we see more of Red Arrow, Arson is what they're calling him now, in the book. Hoping that he gets another sidekick from that girl in issue 11. I really think Lear and the Skylarks are going to come back. It was obvious. They went into a hole, took his blood. Lear, he seemed like a very smart guy, so he's going to get out. And then I want to see how the book integrates what Nesenti's doing with him jumping around to what John's is probably going to be doing in the upcoming Justice League of America book, and how those two play off each other. And that's really going to be a good book going forward. Because, these guys, even though they're Justice League, and, Arrow has been, always wanted to be on the league, at the same time, you really don't know if they're going to be a shady Justice League of America in the spotlight. So it's just going to be cool seeing all these personalities of, Arrow's liberatism with, Hawkman being kind of a staunch, more conservative guy, and you have like Steve Trevor in there, and then you have Courtney in it as well. So it's just gonna be a fun ride. All right, love you guys, love the podcast, and I'll catch you later.
This is exactly why I like voicemails. Because first of all, Green Arrow's been a book I've been enjoying since it came out, but I haven't been through the roof. Issue 0, I think one of the things that clicked with me with Issue 0, I think for me, I needed to see how this writer sees Green Arrow. How I shouldn't say just how this writer sees Green Arrow, how this universe is seeing Green Arrow, like where his origins were, where he came from. We got to see Freddie Williams on art for the first time. It was going back to something that I really enjoyed when he was on Robin, but similar to what he's done when he's been on Flash, similar to what he's done with Captain Atom, he mixes up the style to match the book that he's doing. And there was something about just the whole package coming together that it really, because it wasn't the same writer, I shouldn't say that, but this was our first chance to really take a glimpse at how Ollie is viewed in the DC universe from where he came from. I want to go back now and read the issues of Green Arrow leading up to issue 0, which is kind of a weird thing to say. I want to go back to read stuff. Because I think my understanding of how he's being viewed in this has made me more excited for the book. And like I said, it wasn't a book that there was no chance I was dropping it. I liked it. I just wasn't where I normally am for Green Arrow. And I think it was because he is a younger Green Arrow. He hasn't gone through the things that I experienced with him as a reader. And when that happens, sometimes it takes a while for you to make that connection. I had the same thing with Hawkman, with Savage Hawkman. The first creative team was on that book, and I wasn't quite there with it yet. Then the new creative team took over, and they started playing on some beats that are really familiar to me that I really wanted to see in Hawkman, and I started connecting with that book. So this Arrow's been that kind of experience for me where it's been gradually building to an enjoyment of this title again in a way that I'm used to experiencing Green Arrow, because I always need a Green Arrow fix. I love the character. So I think the 0 issue has really helped me in a way where I'm hoping I can go back and reread it and be where he's at, because I love the way Isaiah's viewing this book. I want to be viewing it that way. But I think I needed to connect with the character in the way that the 0 issue allowed me to in order to do that. Because I thought the 0 issue was really stupendous for that book. I think it was really something that I needed. I don't know if you well, actually, and I don't want to speak for you. Where have you been at with Green? Are you in? I know we talked about this a little bit during the 0 issue time. What has your run been like with this?
Well, first off, I was a little confused whether Isaiah actually likes Green Arrow or not.
I love that. Dude is awesome.
I know, outstanding passion. That's one of the things I'm like, yeah. I was kind of hooping and hollering on this end, and I'm, for me, the 0 issue was the Green Arrow 0 issue really locked this, and it's another one of those stories that made me appreciate the story even more. I was a fan of the Green Arrow before the 0 issue. I wasn't as fiery passionate about it as I was other books, but it wasn't I was enjoying it. It was a solid read. It would be near the top of the stack for me. It wouldn't be the top of the stack. It wouldn't be a passionate read, but that 0 issue really it was a really great eye-opener, a really great moment, and it's that connectability and that personalization of who Ollie is. So, again, I also went back and I read a couple issues before the 0 issue just to kind of the lead into the 0, and then read the 0, and then, looking forward to, 13, et cetera, and wanting to see where this goes. And there was just a lot of possibility. I was kind of echoing thoughts about Speedy, about how we may have just seen the new Speedy, which in a way I'm kind of like, oh, that'd be kind of neat if they went that route. Part of me does miss Mia because I always thought she was a great character, but this could be a similar style to the character, a similar feel, and a similar fire to her. So there could be that same type of passion if the right creative team is behind him. And right now I'm digging their team we got. I like the stories that are being thrown out, and I'm definitely loving the look. So, yeah, Green Arrow is going to be one of those post-0 must-reads, just to see where this goes through. Let's give this team some time on the book to really, put their fire into it.
Hey, there's some good news for Arrow. I actually just saw this article while you and I were chatting here. They were going over, this released about an hour and a half ago from Associated Press. they were talking about the new shows that have aired on Wednesday, and Arrow was the most watched program on the CW since 2009.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm thrilled for that. So that's really good news. So I'm hoping that it maintains that fire and that it's a program that just continues to, maybe draw a new viewership of people maybe who didn't even see the first episode because it was good. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of a cool thing to throw out there, that this show actually, has some legs to it, which is cool.
Hey, Raging Bullet here. This is Jason from the podcast that goes SNIKT. I've been really looking forward to 0 months, and I have to say, with 1 week to go, everything I've read I've really enjoyed, and I've looked forward to your episodes, to reading the ones I haven't gotten vicariously through your discussion. Really enjoy that. My favorites so far have been the Bat family ones, and then Green Lantern and Wonder Woman. Of course, there's still a week to go, and we got Aquaman and a couple other pretty good ones lined up. I have to say the one I was most curious about was the Red Hood and the Outlaws. And man, it was really good. The reason I was kind of, I guess, more curious about it is because I know a lot of things have kind of been tweaked and changed in the New 52, and that's great, and I love that, and they're establishing a lot of stuff in the new continuities in these Zero issues. But I've always felt that anything that was tweaked or changed should be better or at least as good as what they're changing from. And I have to say I was a huge fan, really enjoyed the Red Hood Lost Days miniseries, and I was just wondering, with the story we get in Red Hood Zero, if anything was changed, would it be as good as that story? And I got to say, I was kind of surprised that they kind of stayed away from that. Actually, like the last panel of the regular part of the book, and it looks like it's still a Lazarus Pit, right? Are y'all reading that the same way? And if so, we kind of get a lead-in into that original miniseries. I know some stuff will still be a little bit different, but with the all-cast being more involved and all that, but I thought that was interesting. And so I gotta say I was really satisfied because the story we got was really, really good. I don't know, it really impressed me and really blew me away as a Jason Todd fan. And as a fan of the Red Hood character, I thought it was great. And man, I gotta say, the thing at the Joker at the end, I did not see coming. I was wondering what your thoughts were on that. And it seems like that can really come to play in the upcoming arc, which obviously is awesome. And also, if that was a Lazarus Pit at the end, then we have involved in the Red Hood, like the all-time best Batman villain, and one of the most influential villains of recent years with Talia and Joker. So, in that regard, I don't know, that's really cool. It says a lot about the character and where he may or may not be going or what he's come from, etc. So anyway, I was just wondering what you guys thought particularly about that book. I'm not sure if y'all will be talking about it this episode or the next one, but I wanted to give my thoughts and hear yours. Because it was a great story, and the Joker stuff in the end really has the jonesing for how that's going to play out. If he's going to find out that the Joker kind of set him up as Robin to begin with, and what impact that would have. So I look forward to hearing you guys talk about it. Love the podcast as always, and keep it going. All right, thanks, guys. Bye.
That's going to be an interesting question, because let's talk a little bit about that Red Hood and the Outlaws number 0. The implications in that series were, as he's saying, that the Joker had some kind of puppet master role in pushing Jason Todd towards being Robin, also bringing the character back from the dead after he killed him, really all to get into the head of Batman. Now, with the Joker, here's the question you've always got to ask yourself. How much of this is the Joker's perception of events and how much is reality? But I think timing-wise, as he's mentioning, with the death of the family arc here, right now, in front of us, the timing is awfully coincidental for this to be a part of this event. What is that any truth to any of this going to do to Jason Todd? Because how could that not come out during that arc, right?
I completely took it that this is going to come out in the story arc, and I was really excited about that, and I loved this issue because you kind of have the beginning part, and then you got Joker saying, "Okay, let me just tell you what's going on here," and that's the whole thing with this Joker story arc coming. There's these little secrets that the Joker knows, and he's going to use these secrets against them, and this is going to be his big secret here is that he completely set up everything. Set up him to become the Robin, set up him to be killed, set up to his mother and have him set up. Just everything was all the Joker playing puppet master to get one on Batman and just kind of send him over the edge. I'm really looking forward to where, these two stories kind of start meshing. And again, it's another one of those Zero issues that had me going, oh my God, this is awesome. This is what you do with the internet. This right here, this is a cool Jason Todd moment. This is a cool Joker connection. I was really excited and pumped and just looking forward to it. And then I read the Joker, Death of the Family. I'm like, oh boy, this is going to get good.
His upbringing was something that I thought was really well handled in this issue, where you got to see. I think one of the keys of Jason Todd is you have to have the right balance of sympathy for the character and head shaking. I also like when Jason Todd is self-critical, like when he'll look back at his own mistakes. Even when he's at monitor duty and he's saying to himself, "I should have, told Batman before I went off after Mom." But one of the cool things was you see him in this situation with Dad and Mom. And your Dad's flirting with ladies. Dad's kind of, this dark, seedy kind of guy who can never really get it together. And Jason quickly becomes the man of the family when Dad's taken out of the picture. And to the point where, Jason has to start crossing lines to survive. And, crossing lines when it comes to violence. And he's got reasons to be an angry kid internally, to have these things that he's had to bury because he's really had no one to discuss them with, nobody to help him become balanced, nobody to help him get past that rage. I love that about the character. I think that was something that this handled very, very well in painting this picture of who I've always thought Jason Todd is. This was, from his introduction, post-crisis, where you got to see this kid who goes a little too far, punches a little too much. Batman's got to stop him. I mean, this is Batman. And he's got to stop this guy and say, hey, wait a minute, you're going a little too far here, kid. That's stuff that I really dug about this, and I thought that it played out really, really well. I also love the revamped Robin costumes because you've got, the new Dick Grayson costume that was introduced in Nightwing. You've got the new Robin costume introduced for Jason Todd, which is a take off of that, but a little edgier. Because, this is Jason now, it would be advanced to another level. And then you've got the Tim Drake one, which I love that the Tim Drake red Robin costume was a takeoff of the Freddie Williams one when Freddie was on the run. It's got the red and black versus the green. And it's a nod, a strong nod to his Robin history and showing that he's honoring the role at its core. So I don't know. I've really enjoyed how these series of issues have gradually introduced, and the Damian introduction, 4 Robin stories that I thought for me really made me feel that the Robin cycle could be explained in the time frame that they're explaining it in. I never thought that it was absolutely necessary to fit it into a 5-year window, but they managed to do it, and it managed to work for me. You got to suspend your disbelief a little bit, but you've always had to with comic book timelines. So that part doesn't bother me, but I really felt like, okay, there's a progression. More so than trying to fit it into a certain set number of years. For me, I enjoyed seeing this progression. And that's what really worked for me, was this sense of, okay, I get how we've gotten from A to Damian.
Oh, God, yeah. And it's one of the things that, it's when I started looking again at just who Jason Todd was, and I keep going through some of these early pages of the issue, I feel really bad for the guy.
Yeah.
And it's part of the whole thing where you understand why he did what he did. And throughout it, though, he still kind of had his code. Because after the dad was finally taken away and he was it, then his mom's completely gone. So now he's not only the man of the household, he's everything. He has no household. He is on his own. So he did, I did what I had to do. I'm not proud of most of it. For what it's worth, I never hurt anyone physically. Can't say others were as nice to me. I love just how that sequence, you see him stealing, breaking in, and then you see him paying for it, where he gets the crud kicked out of him, and he's a bloody mess on the floor. You know he got caught. So guess what? Someone's going to make him pay. Someone's going to send him a little reminder, hey, you stole from the wrong people. I loved seeing that, and all this as a kid. He's still, when we grew up, we had the benefit of these households where, we had loving parents who were nurturing and supportive of us. And we had this, happy suburban life. This kid's never had anything remotely like that. Even when he became a ward of Batman, he still didn't have the quote-unquote normal life. This kid was behind the 8 ball from the very beginning. And I loved seeing the fact that this is who he was. He played the cards he was dealt, and in the end, he lost. Well, kind of. He died, but he didn't come back. So, there's a chance at second life. There's a chance at redemption, and that to me is a great Jason Todd mantra. There's a chance of redemption.
Yeah, I agree with you. I liked when he was talking about his whole story as Robin. That, it was the greatest gig in the world, and I was great at it at first. But then he looks at where his own anger, his own ghosts, were the things that were taking him down this path. That's what threw him on monitor duty. That's what threw him into circumstances where he saw Mom. That's what threw him into circumstances where he gets attacked by the Joker. My favorite line, I remember being sad that I didn't get to say goodbye or thank you or I'm sorry, as you see the whole thing blow up. And he comes back from this Lazarus pit, and I'm sitting here saying to myself, I'm like, whew. So he saw his perception that Batman just moved on and Batman didn't care. Is it possible from all this that Red Hood could come back to the fold?
There is a chance. There is a chance that Red Hood can come back. Now, I think that's what's going to be a focal point in the Death of the Family story arc.
Right.
Because this could really take things one of two directions. This could be that pivotal moment that pulls Jason back, or this could be the moment that pushes him over the edge. That reminder of the fact that Bruce didn't, protect him, that Bruce, didn't avenge him from the Joker. And then he finds out that the Joker actually set him up, that the Joker from day one was playing him like a puppet master, and here's Bruce, the world's greatest detective, didn't see it and didn't protect him from it. Why wasn't Bruce there for me? And all this stuff could very easily, burst out of him, and we could see Red Hood go, forget the quasi-hero, he could go full-on villain, cross the line. He could become a great adversary of Batman. I could see it going one of two ways. And it's that unknown factor that has me very excited for the Red Hood crossover, and as well as just the general Death of the Family story. There's a lot of stuff that they can go with this, and especially with Jason, with this idea and mindset of where he's coming from.
Yeah, I agree. It's an interesting story. I don't want to see him go full-on bad guy. And it's funny how I think this Zero issue just really reconnected me with, this is the Jason I love. When he's written like this, that's the character that I'm into. The best Judd Winnick, Jason Todd stories have been this guy. And I think this really covered that. I don't know that I don't need him necessarily to come back to the fold, but this is a guy I believe could. I believe there is some point of redemption. Especially when you consider who Damian is. I could see there being that possibility that, Jason could forgive and Jason could see his own faults because he's already doing it in this storytelling. I don't know where it's going to go. This is what I love about Red Hood and the Outlaws, though. It's that line of could they or couldn't they? And I think all these guys that are in Red Hood and the Outlaws are damaged, but you believe that there is some potential, if the right circumstances ever present themselves, that these people could come back into normal comic book society. Have it be. And I love that. I think this is very well crafted. Each of the Robin origins have really been great in the way that they've done this. And can we talk a little Teen Titans number 0, seeing as we're already kind of there?
Oh, we can. One quick thing I do want to comment on
Sure.
from the Red Hood. The one panel when they're showing Jason, when Jason sees his mom.
Yeah.
You got the one where he's talking about, I should have told Batman when I saw her, but then there's the panel with no inner dialogue. You just see Jason sitting there. He's got tear in his eyes. That tear streaming down his cheek, and just the image of the mom, and just that, I get so emotional when I see that, because, again, this is that really nasty kid that people voted to kill off. This is that guy that was so annoying to everybody, who then comes back as his villain. Right here in this moment, you see that kid, that sweet innocent kid before corruption, after corruption, but really before just this is the potential right here. It's this emotional connection that could maybe bring Jason back. There is still emotion there. There is still something there. And if that can be reached, if that can be connected to, we could get a hero out of Jason.
That's one of the things I love about comic books, or when characters become three-dimensional like that, where they have multiple facets of their personality. We all have that. We all, even in ourselves, we can look at the things where we'll look back at things we've done in the past, decisions we've made, choices we've made, things we're proud of, and things we're like, what were we doing? I've got a ton of that in my life, both sides. Things where I think, wow, I hit a home run there, and things were like, ugh. I'd like to forget about that. But you shouldn't. You need to learn from it. It's Jason going over this in his head that makes me think this is a kid who can learn from this and maybe grow into something else. Is he ready to do that now? I don't know. I think this Death of the Family arc is going to answer a lot of questions for us as readers, as far as how much has Jason grown? How much has he matured? Where is he at now? I find that stuff insanely interesting when you explore that with a character. And that's where this is really working as a book. It's funny how this book, as it's developed more and more, how this book seemed very light, and there was a lot of silly moments in the first issue as far as your initial perception of the way the series was going, and has all of those events paid off into something far richer and far more psychologically deep as the series has progressed. I really have become a huge fan of Red Hood and the Outlaws because of the fact that it never is what it seems like it's going to be. And it's become one of my favorite books. It really is. Which is funny when we talked about that first issue and things that were rather uncomfortable in it, that how much of that, I don't think this book would be what it is right now if it didn't start off the way that it did. And I think it's just really has been a well-crafted title.
Amen.
Now, can we talk about Titans number 0, if you don't mind?
Oh, God, yeah. And let me start off by saying I absolutely love this Tim Drake origin. You know what? I was so worried because I loved Tim before. I was like, oh, this is right here. This really hit it for me. This was a great version of him. This was a great origin. For me, this character is still Tim Drake. This is still the Tim that I absolutely love. It's still the same guy. And there was I love the fact that his parents are alive. Yeah. He's not the sad brooding orphan. We have a member of the Bat family that actually has living parents. Yay!
In witness protection?
Well, they're still alive though.
No. And actually I'm validating what you're saying. One of the keys, I think, to Tim Drake, and this is where these origins are working for me, you're compressing a lifespan that we've seen of these characters. So you got to make sure you're hitting the right beats and identifying what's unique, especially when you're doing Robins. They've introduced 4 Robins in these 0 issues during 0 month. you've got to make sure to really show a heavy distinction of what makes each of these characters unique and valid, why they belong in the universe, because there's a lot of characters that they haven't introduced yet. I'm not talking about in the Batman universe, but in general, throughout the DC universe, that have been legacy characters that have had histories as well. So if you're going to sit there and say, well, we're going to introduce 4 Robins to you, you got to sit there and say, okay, and why do we need to do that? Like, why didn't we just go right from Dick Grayson to Damian? And here's why. When you're getting issues like this, and you see the Robin that didn't go through what Jason did, didn't go through what Bruce did, didn't go through what Dick Grayson did. He was this smart, go-getter kid who was just trying to live up to how his parents saw him and how he wanted to see himself and kept pushing himself to be more and more. I wish I was Tim Drake. And that's one of the cool things about Tim Drake is the way that he started researching Batman, trying to figure out who Batman was, trying to become a part of that world on some level, and not giving up. That is a really cool core component to Tim. Not because he lost his parents, not because there was that, dark issue, just because he's this kid who was pushing himself to have the answers. That was something for me that I really, really enjoyed. And, the times when he dealt with his parents where he'd made mistakes and things like that, and the parents had to deal with that. They wanted a witness protection program because of choices that Tim made. That was something that I really liked seeing in all this, where this is a kind of responsibility where you can see where this kid's like, they made this sacrifice for me. I need to push myself to be worth that sacrifice. That is Tim Drake to me. This is a kid who takes responsibility. This is a kid who realizes that any mistakes that he's made, any shortcomings that he's had, he needs to push himself to be something more because he doesn't wallow in self-pity. He pushes himself to move beyond any adversity that comes, to take responsibility for those actions, to be something more. He's smart. He uses the technology around him. He hones himself to be a better athlete. He just tries all of these things because he's driven. And there's something neat and unique to have this guy. I think he's as unique as Damian. He's as unique as Jason. He's as unique as Dick Grayson. And he needs to have that core feeling about him. He's a character, I know how important he is to you. He's a character that's just as important to me. I remember reading for the first time when this character was introduced and in Lonely Place of Dying. This is the same guy. It's compressed. They took out certain elements. I get that. I'm fine with that. As long as at the core I'm like, oh, this is my friend. This is my guy I've been hanging with. This is how it worked out for him in this universe because of Flashpoint happening. But he didn't lose any of those important beats in all of this. This really worked. This was a great, great Zero issue because of that.
The important quality is his character, who he is.
Yeah.
He was always the hero that I felt I could sit down, hang out with, have a beer with, and just relax. And just, he's the kind of guy that I could become friends with. And I still have those same types of qualities. I still have that same type of vibe from Tim. Now, granted, I would always be the also-ran just hanging out, that he'd be nice to let me hang out with him just because he's a swell guy. I don't think I'd add to the team, but I still get that same quality, that same vibe from this kid that I got all those years ago when I first read him, when I first learned about this character. Like, oh, this is a neat concept behind Batman. I love the fact that, Tim discovered who Batman was in the past. Well, here he doesn't completely discover him, but he's on the way to figure it out. And I like the fact that Bruce recognizes, okay, this is somebody beyond just the everyday average person looking into figuring out who I am. This kid's got skills. This kid has what it takes. It was more of a recognition by Batman before he even becomes Red Robin, even before he makes the offer to the kid. He knows this kid is something above and beyond what all the others who've tried to figure out who I am. And I loved seeing that connection, and I love seeing that level of respect that Bruce has towards him. And it adds to the whole partnership between these two.
Stealing the Cobblepot's money, Oswald's money, in order to get attention.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, I mean, that was his point was, hey, you're not going to notice me. You're dismissing me. Fine. I'm going to make you notice me. I'm going to make you come to me. And this leads to this whole situation where Tim's getting shot at, and Batman's like, you knew I was going to be here. This is what you wanted all along. That tete-a-tete, that exchange, both the exchange before that, the exchange over the computer, and then this exchange, is exactly what I loved about all this. Because I think Bruce, you know, hit a certain point where he knew with his skills that Tim, if he was going to keep going down this path, whether or not he discovered who Batman was, he was going to get himself into some serious trouble, which is why he was warning him off. When it leads to this type of exchange, wow, was that just plain awesome. Tim, like, coming to the realization that the dangerous game that he was playing, you know, putting the parents in witness protection, getting the parents, you know, they're like saying, hey, we're going to sign off. It's okay for you to do this, you know, to work with him and to be a part of all this, as long as we have your guarantee that, you know, he'll be safe and all that. Those were all bits that I really enjoyed. I think, you know, it shows two parents that knew their kid really well, knew their kid's potential, knew what their kid would keep on doing. And, you know, we're looking for some, like, okay, if he's going to keep heading down this path, who can give him some guidance so that he'll survive this path? And the costume at the end, I don't know if that was the same for you. When I flipped that page and saw him for the first time in that version of the Robin suit, the one we'd seen Tim Drake in so many times when it was revamped in his run, that was the moment where I'm like, okay, I get this now. I get why they're saying he started off as Red Robin, and the idea that he was going to forge his own destiny, but he wanted to honor what had come before. He wanted to honor Jason's sacrifice, you know, Jason's loss. And, you know, out of respect for Jason, I won't be wearing that uniform. I think it benefits no one. You know, I think it was this way of saying it doesn't benefit you, Bruce, to try and think of me as Jason's replacement. You know, but there's a way that I can have my own identity while still honoring that legacy, while still showing that same symbol to the city that Robin's back. You know, and I thought that was a cool way to handle this. I knew I really needed to see the issue before I knew how I felt about this. People listening to this might not agree with me, and that's okay. This is just my take on it. My take on this is I've read all of the Tim Drake stuff leading up to this. Seeing this version, knowing that it's because of Flashpoint and everything that happened, I really felt this was a way to show in this new universe Tim Drake without losing anything at the core of who the character is. They could call, you know, Red Hood, Robin, Red Robin, you know, Tony the Tiger, you know, whatever they want to call this kid. It's who's under that mask that's really important to me when it comes to Tim Drake, and he's one of those characters that works on that level. You really got to get to that guy. I love the sense of wonder when he was in the Batcave, you know, where he's got that smile on his face. Bruce is still that dark, brooding guy that he was, we know, when Tim was taken under the wing. But that was something that was really, really cool, seeing him smile when they were out for the first time, swinging out there together. That, to me, is Tim Drake. He's the guy that you're like, I wish I could, you know, he's got that, that's where he and Dick Grayson get along. He's got the swagger. It works. Yeah, and it works on a very different level than Dick. He's much more cerebral. There's something different about the guy. And it's why I always like seeing the two of them together, because there is a contrast to the two of them, but yet you can see that they would be brothers, that there would be a lot in common as well. He's that guy. I get where that relationship would come from. And I just thought this was really a terrific Zero issue. Sold me on something that I got to admit, I wasn't totally comfortable on. When they announced that, you know, he's going to be, I'm like, okay, I got to read it. I want to see what they're doing. After reading it, it's exactly what I was hoping it would be.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite, and I say favorite even though it's a tragic moment, but it's still one of those gripping moments that always chokes me up. It came, you know, with with when Tim's father is dying. And he's about to die, and he's on the mic. He's on the mic talking to him, saying, "I'm proud of you," and he's saying all those encouraging last minute things that a father would say to his son. And it always chokes me up because he's like, "Don't blame yourself. You're doing a good thing. This is right." And you see him just trying to encourage, and Tim's like, "Faster!" And you're trying to get there to save him. It's going to be tragically too late. I get that same type of choked up moment in this Zero issue, and the parents are just like, this is for the better. They recognize that Tim won't thrive, won't succeed, won't thrive in their world. He always was outside of the world. He always was a little bit different. He looked at things differently. He approached life different, and they love him and they respect him, and they would do anything for him, but they know they're holding him back. And it's that whole releasing and letting the child actually go, letting him go, letting him thrive, letting him do what he's going to do. And just, they know great things are going to happen. They know he's going to be this force of good in the universe. And I love just it was just that moments, that parental moments where just the letting go, the releasing and letting your child, leave the nest and do what they need to do. And it was just, It touched me just as deeply as the past Tim stories, and that whole sense of wonderment you're talking about. I was so glad you mentioned that, because that was again it's classic Robin moments are that wonderment, are that excitement, are that thrilling. Yes, Tim is a detective. Yes, he is that deductive partner of Batman, but there is still that childhood wonderment, and that's the wonderment that he and Nightwing both had. Damian and Jason never really had that. So again, it shows the differentiations between the different Robins.
I take that back to my childhood. Watching Batman, I know the 60s show I always reference as being my gateway into this whole universe. Robin was your guy that made you feel like you could be hanging with Batman. And he made it seem cool. And in the comics, it always felt that way when I saw the comics and how it was a little more mature, how they were handling it, and it was, less spoofy. Although the 60s Batman show, like I said, when I first watched it, I didn't know it was a spoof. And you're right, with Jason, it was different. With Tim, you got that sense, that feel again, especially when because we got to follow Tim through his training. And, see how that was all laid out in those wonderful miniseries leading up to it. So I thought they really did a great job they captured a lot of content and a lot of emotion in one issue that I think is very hard to do. And I thought they really did a bang-up job with this.
Hi, Sean and Jim. It's Jack again. Just calling to let you know that when I did say the 25-year history, I was talking about post-Crisis on Infinite Earth. So I was wondering how they were going to actually say whether or not he retrained again or whatever, because of the fact that in the Batman they're basically kind of saying Bruce is kind of in his 40s and whatnot. And again, you guys, I love your guys' show. It's great. I love your guys' podcast. It's awesome. And please let us fans know if you guys find any cool Easter eggs in the books, or let us know if there's any indie works we should be checking out as well. And hopefully you guys will be able to make it to the Motor City show next year. That would be sweet. George Perez is going to be there next year. He's been confirmed so far. So you guys do a great job. I always listen to you guys on my PlayStation. I download your guys' program. It's awesome. Keep up the good work. Thanks for getting us back.
It's funny, I thought that the Batman timeline, they've done a great job of compressing. You got it with Batman. Suspend your disbelief, because there's a lot of stuff there. And we still don't know how many of the key storylines are ones that actually happened. And I don't know how much of that I need spelled out anymore. I think they've given us enough information that I think we can go from here. And if there's a reason for an author to bring in a storyline, they can reference it. And if not, we can just move on from here. I think we've got a good grasp of, really more importantly, his supporting cast and his general backstory. I loved the training story in Detective Comics. I thought that was really well handled. So I think they've done a really good job of giving us kind of a theme and a feel for what Batman's life was like leading up to here. Do Do you feel like you need to know, like, because he was mentioning the 25-year history, do you feel like we should know detail for detail what happened? And I'm not saying that's what he's asking for. It just got me thinking when he was mentioning that history again. Or do you think at this point we've got enough info and we can just find out when the authors need to reveal it?
See, I'm of the mindset, I think we got enough. We got a good solid groundwork of who he is and where things are going and where they've been. So as it comes out, let us know. For me, I think the only story that I'm really chomping at the bit at is the Bane stuff. Mm-hmm. That's, I think, the only thing I'm right now saying. I wish they'd tell us about Bane. How did that play out? What happened? That's the character I'd like to see them revisit within the next year. And when they revisit the character, that's when they can tell us what happened beforehand, or they can treat it this as his origin, which I don't think they would do that. I think they're having it that Bane happened, that everything that happened there actually occurred. But again, I'm not 100% certain on that, and I don't remember reading or hearing any interviews where they mentioned Bane.
Bane's been in The Dark Knight.
Yeah, oh yeah, duh.
You've done this before when we've had this discussion. You brought up Bane, like he hasn't been around. He was in The Dark Knight.
Yeah, I'm an idiot.
I was like sitting here. I'm like, where is he going to this again? We've already seen Bane.
Dark Knight is just, for whatever reason, it's off my radar. And I enjoy the book when I read it. Right. That's the silly part, is when I sit there and I read it, I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. This is neat. I enjoy the book. And then it just disappears from my brain.
I wonder if is part of that the fact that Dark Knight was launched and then relaunched? It was issue 6 and 7 of Dark Knight where that happened with, the whole, with Batman getting jacked up and Superman having to pop up with the appearance. Remember all that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that happened in Dark Knight. And I liked that story from Jenkins a lot because it was our first time we saw a Superman-Batman team-up I think that was the first time we saw Superman-Batman team up in their own books, versus being on Justice League, where, because we've already seen The Flash be involved, but seeing Superman there and having him help out with, detoxing Batman, so to speak, I thought was really great. So, now, we haven't had everything with Bane and what happened with Batman, just to kind of defend you here, spelled out. We don't know how Nightfall played into all that, exactly. So I want to see that too. So I'm going to defend you a little bit there when I go back into it. But that's one of the things that I really liked about those issues, were we hadn't seen in the Batman titles any form of team up with Batman and the heroes before. The Dark Knight was the first one to explore that, with the Flash first and then with Superman. And I liked that, and Wonder Woman also appeared in that one, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I really liked how we finally got to see those kind of team-ups between, the Justice League heroes. Instead of it being as a whole team, it was calling in, your favorite thing, calling in for backup. He called in some of these people to help out with this thing. And then they, in turn, called each other when things started going horribly wrong for Bruce. I liked that. It was something that I found that was really interesting in this series. So that was kind of cool. But I don't know, the Batman history, I'm with you. I tend to lean towards, I think they've spelled out enough now. That's not to say that I don't want to know more. I've got the same curiosities that probably everybody listening to this who's a longtime Batman fan, and yourself included, I'm sure, as far as what has his life been like in these 5 years leading up to all this. But I'd rather see it introduced through storytelling, as writers need to use it, than having a rigid time frame that the writers don't have any flexibility with at all. I think those stories can be introduced gradually, and I want to read the stories. I want to read them as stories instead of events on a timeline. That's more of what my thinking is, and that's kind of why I'm I don't want it spelled out now, because I feel if it would be spelled out, it's only going to be on a timeline, and that's not what I want. Especially after that Detective Comics issue, because I really thought that was really a cool training segment. So I want to see more of that stuff, because his origin, even though we're some storylines have happened, it is more open-ended than I think we as fans are realizing. There is a chance for writers to go back and explore that now, because this isn't the pre-Flashpoint Batman. It's the post-Flashpoint Batman. His history has been altered because the whole world's history has been altered. So it does open up some opportunities here that we haven't seen before. Killing Joke happened, but it doesn't necessarily mean it happened word for word, moment for moment, like it happened in the pre-Flashpoint universe. So, there's room for writers to really play around with some of these concepts in a way you couldn't before Flashpoint. I loved the pre-Flashpoint DCU. I'm not knocking any of that. I adored that stuff. But when you take a timeline shift like this and say, now we've got a divergent timeline, that stuff all happened over here. But over here, this is a divergent timeline with a history that is a bit in flux. You've got some opportunities to tell stories in a new and unique way that introduce us to new elements of a character in this world in a way that we haven't seen them before. I like that. That Detective Comics issue was a great example of that. We saw training of Bruce that we haven't seen before. Why? Because maybe that training didn't happen pre-Flashpoint. That happened in the post-Flashpoint DCU. And that stuff, that to me, now you're showing me an advantage of this. Is that we can get new stories of our origins from these characters without losing who they are in ways that are cool and interesting. So I want to see this stuff. And this is where it's working for me with Batman. He was mentioning indie books that we read and stuff like that. Can we share that thing that you and I talked about on the phone? Like what we're planning? Because I'm pretty convinced we're going to do that.
Oh, okay.
Are you as locked into that as I am?
Oh, definitely.
Jim and I have been talking, and there's times when we're recording and not recording, where we're done, where we talk about what we might want to do in the future when it comes to the podcast. And the funny part is the one thing that always hits us is we talk about, what kind of future podcast, if we ever wanted to stop Raging Bullets, would we do? Well, before anybody freaks right now and goes, oh, we're ending Raging Bullets. No. What always ends up stopping us from doing those things is the fact that we love doing this show. So there is that desire from us, though, when we throw out those ideas, we throw out like 20 gazillion different podcasts that we'd like to do, including a fully open-ended one. And we kind of talked about it recently where what would be fun is, rather than taking anything away from Raging Bullets and still doing the 4 a month like we've been doing, it'd be fun just once a month to do an hour-long show where we just talk about anything and everything. So we can get to some of the things he's talking about, like, hey, if I read a cool indie book, I was at a con, I picked this up. We can't really spend a whole bunch of time talking about it in the Raging Bullets because it kind of diverts from the type of program we are. But what if we did a once-a-month episode for our listeners that are interested where we talk about movies, TVs, video games, anything, anything that we want to talk about, comics that are outside of our show's format, where we can have people on or friends on that want to talk about books or things that they want to chat about that are a little outside of it. And it's with stuff we've been doing with things like Molly Danger, where we had Jamal Igle on to talk about stuff like that. That would give us an opportunity to be able to say, okay, we're going to devote that show to that. Still have our DC stuff each month, but we've got that flexibility with that one episode that we do a month. It's not going to change anything with Raging Bullets. We're still going to do 4 a month like we always have. This is kind of a bonus thing, and it's a desire that Jim and I have both had for years to be able to talk about things on the show that fall outside of that. So we're going to do our first one sometime over the next 4 weeks. And Jim and I will just look at our schedules and slide it in there. It'll be a bonus episode that we're going to do, which for you and I to talk for an hour, boy, that's going to be a real stretch for us, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the hard part is going to be cutting it off at the end of the hour. Now, the over-under right now is how long does it last? Only an hour discussion.
Well, the thing is, our key focus is going to be that the priority is always going to be the normal Raging Bullet show. This is going to be particularly bonus content. So I don't feel like I have to stay in that rigid hour with it. It's more of I'm not going to take away from this podcast to make that episode, if that makes sense. So if you and I only have an hour to chat, we'll chat for an hour. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the way I look at that show is that'll be the bonus, whatever time you and I have to talk during it. You're right. It has the typical flexibility this show has to become whatever we want it to be. But I think it'll be good for interested people because we actually get what he asked for a lot. We get it at cons. We get it through emails where people would like to hear us talk about certain things that fall outside of our normal topic areas. And we have a desire to do that too. But we love this show. I don't want to take away from Raging Bullets as everyone knows it in order to do this. So it really is bonus pieces. And if we had a month where we couldn't get to that episode because Raging Bullets, the usual show, takes the priority, we could bump that episode in place of doing the regular show. Meaning that we would make sure to always stick to our 4 a month for Raging Bullets ahead of time. I think that fits kind of where you and I are at mentally as far as priority-wise, because we've got a diehard audience that loves this show and the way we do it, and we want to keep delivering that because we like doing it just as much as they like it. But it gives us some flexibility to be able to talk about some other things in a way that makes sense for our listeners. So that's what we're going to be doing. So we're going to do one in 4 weeks. Somewhere in the 4 weeks. I don't know where. It could be next week. Could be the week after that. We'll see where it fits for our schedule. And desire. I mean, it may be just a thing where you call me up and say, hey, dude, I really want to talk about this now. And we record. Or, I do the same thing. So it's great. Like, I wanted to start, one of the things we chatted about was possibly doing a Doctor Who cast. And, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, well, we fall into the same kind of problem where if we do Raging Bullets and a Doctor Who cast, then there's things we can't talk about. And I felt this is the ultimate solution to that trap. To just say, we don't have to give up anything on this show. We just give ourselves some flexibility to say, once a month we can do an episode like this. So it'll be a 5th episode. Our fifth, you equated it to how DC's got that 5th week skip week that they do. That sometimes it's been for annuals, sometimes it's been for 5th week events, things like that. We're looking at this episode as that for our show, which I loved that analogy that you made. I don't know what we call it. I guess it is the 5th week event that they've done. We look at that as being that. So kind of a cool thing. I loved when you mentioned that. So that's kind of my thinking as well.
It's our 5th week whatnot.
I like that. Actually, let's call it that. Raging Bullets 5th week whatnot. It's kind of a potpourri where we can just kind of throw in whatever we want to. Mishmash. So I like that. The 5th week whatnot. It kind of fits. So that's what we'll call it.
And just because we are who we are, we may have the 5th week whatnot in the 3rd or the 2nd week. You never know when it's going to come up.
That's a good. Well, it's it's always a 5th week somewhere.
You look good. Been working out? You could probably use a little sun. Then again, who am I to talk?
Jim, I want to talk about these first 2 issues of Death of the Family, starting with Batgirl number 13. The writer is Gail Simone. Ed Benes on pencils and inks. Ulysses Areola on colors, and I apologize for name butchery there because the colors are beautiful in this book. Dave Sharp on letters. Cover by Greg Capello and FCO Placencia. Brian Smith, editor. Batman created by Bob Kane. This is the prologue to Death of the Family. We get to see the end of the Nightfall story arc that's been going on in Batgirl, leading into the events that are going to lead us into this Death of the Family and Batgirl's involvement in that whole storyline. One of the things, first of all, welcome to Ed Benes being on this series, because I've always loved his work with Gail Simone. That was on Birds of Prey, one of the early artists that were working with Gail, and then when they relaunched the series, working again with Gail Simone in that book. I love the way that they seem to work when it comes to action, and obviously he does a beautiful job rendering Batgirl and all of the characters in the series. But I really enjoy the look of this book, the feel. One of the things that really has struck me in this series, 13 issues in, it has the important beats of Batgirl fighting past overwhelming odds right when she's on the edge, when it looks like she should be giving up. I might be dying, and I'm actually seeing rainbows. I'm sure there's a neurological reason for it, but I can't think of what it might be just now. She's working. I love the inner dialogue of her working through this, building this intensity for us as the reader, knowing that it doesn't just look bad. She knows it's bad, and yet she still finds a way to push on. That's what worked for her as Oracle in the wheelchair. That's what works for her here in these sequences. In or out of the wheelchair, I got to know this is Barbara Gordon. in these moments, it is Barbara Gordon. I love this. This is exactly what I'm looking for with this character. And this is what's making this work for me. And we see this moment with Nightfall and how she's still trying to work out ways to, like, who this woman actually is. And now that I know who this woman actually is, how can I use this to give myself even that tiniest edge to buy some time so maybe the other people involved in this can jump in and help out. Great action, great series, and I love this issue. It was a great, great issue.
Oh my God! This was just a wonderful experience, and when you get, again, as I've said before, when you get an art team and when you get the writing and the art team just firing on all cylinders, working together, you get magic. And I loved these sequences. You have just Barbara rising up, just her fighting through the pain, fighting through death, just basically willing herself to continue on, just showing the strength of character that is Barbara Gordon. And then you get these art sequences, and it's not just the beautiful pencils and inks, it is the absolutely wonderful coloring job that we're seeing the pain, we're seeing the suffering, and we're seeing emotion on a faceless villain.
Yeah.
When she's got her mask on, you still see the emotion. I can still hear the sinisterness in her voice. I can still feel the evil coming off of her. And that is a full-on. It's what she's saying, has one thing, and then the artwork just sends it home. And this is pencils, inks, and coloring all working together, doing just an absolutely beautiful job in creating some great artwork that I was completely, you're just gripped and you're seeing her bleeding out. And I think that's actually where the rainbows come in. I think it's a blood loss thing, but I'm not 100% certain on that. But I think there is actually, I was going to look it up and actually see if there is some type of neurological whatnot that would cause this. But it was one of those things where I read it, I'm like, oh, that's got to be real. And you continue on. And you enjoy just seeing Barbara rationalize throughout this. Every time she's fought these villains that have just pushed her to the edge, she accepts the fact that she has limitations. She isn't Batman. She isn't Superman. She is Batgirl. This is who she is. And she's going to confront the fact that she's not perfect and that she's not just this superpower being, but she's going to fight through. She's going to figure out a way to deal and take down the bad guys, because that's who she is. And every time we see her down and out, we see her rise up, we see her fight through it, and it just keeps having me go, hoorah, Batgirl.
Is there anyone you want me to notify of your death? Do I call anyone? You talk about sinisterness, and that sitting there clearly. Don't think you know what's under here just because you know my name. You don't want to look into my eyes, Batgirl. In those moments, woof, you got this intimidating villain who, clearly has got a psychological thing going on, who thinks she's got it all going on. In the meantime, in the background, you've got James Jr. I can almost touch you, Batgirl. Does he know who she is? I don't know. There's times where I think he knows. There's other times where I think he's just obsessed. I know he's brilliant, so I wouldn't be shocked to find out he knows. I also am not 100% sure he does. I like that mystery of the whole thing, because it's clear that he would mess with his family. I get that. Where is that going to go? I don't know. He's a guy who's just an enigma. And I love that. Talk about crafting another villain while you're doing this. And here's the thing. He likes playing Puppet Master so much. How much is he going to let other people do? How much is he going to manipulate? He's a wild card in every situation. I don't think it's cut and dry that he's going to let anyone kill Batgirl unless it's him. If that's even his end game goal. Because I don't know that that's what it is.
See, it's the wild card, the enigma, are just great analogies for him. Because before this issue, I was 100% convinced he knew who Batgirl was.
Me too.
When we read the Zero issue, I'm like 100% convinced, okay, James Jr. knows who Batgirl is. And then you get this moment where he's like, I can almost touch you, Batgirl. And it's that pause that on one hand, it confirms what I'm thinking, because instead of saying his sister, instead of saying I can almost touch you, Barbara, he's like, no, this isn't Barbara, this is Batgirl, and he's distinguishing between the two fashions of his sister's personality. He's messing with Barbara by going through the roommate, with the cat named Alaska. He's messing with Batgirl by having Nightfall. So he's messing with both sides, both sides and both fashions of her character, of her psyche. And that just shows, just to me, the level of depravity that is James Jr., that he's not just going to mess with his sister on one hand, he's going to hit her on both factions, both sides.
Now, I loved the development of this character because she takes off her mask and she talks about her background. Kenneth Carnes, the real estate baron in Gotham, and sitting there talking about how he manipulated the legal system to get what he wanted. She wasn't naive about all that, but that was her dad. She loved him. And she finally met the boy who didn't care about her financial background and her money. But here's the reason why. The kid was psychotic and, carved up her family. And this is one of those things where that traumatic event, she goes the Batman route, but it's a whole different way of pursuing it. She goes the route where she allows herself to become an inmate into Arkham because she went there to learn, because she knew what she ultimately suspected was that Arkham is all over. It's all around. It's not contained in those walls. And for her to really take advantage of this city, she has to understand that mentality. For her to make her own Trevor doll that she puts up in the cage, she has to understand that insanity. And the whole Trevor thing, knowing like the payoff and the punchline of who that guy was that's so brutalized in there, was something that, wow.
Well, it's beyond brutalized. You look at just how he's all skin and bone. She's starving him to death, which is probably the most gruesome and painful way to go.
Agreed.
Starvation is just, that's one of the nastier ways. If you really, really despise somebody, you slowly starve them to death. You feed them just enough to keep them going, but it just slowly withers away and they eat at their own inside. You're eating inside out, and it just shows a level, again, of just nastiness. And I love that one art sequence where they're showing the shadows across her face, and you can you see the sinister gleam, that sinister grin on her face. It was just, as she's sitting there talking about what she's doing, she went to Arkham to learn and to get into the mindset. It really did kind of echo some of the stuff Bruce went through on a twisted side, because Bruce embraced the darker side. He had to learn about the criminal, about the cowardly lot, that the superstitious and cowardly lot that are criminals. He had to study the criminal mind to be able to defeat them. Well, she was doing that as well, but she was just doing it on a more twisted level. And it's kind of interesting to see that she kind of followed a similar path that Bruce did, but in a darker way. And it's weird to say someone followed a darker path than Bruce did, because his was pretty depressing and pretty dark and brooding. And we see what the other level to that could be and how close Bruce could have gone down this road.
One thing I've really liked about Batgirl is her battles aren't always clean. She sometimes takes advantage of a situation to give her that one edge up over herself being killed. And this situation where Ricky reaches out and grabs the arm of Nightfall, and Batgirl's now able to take advantage of that. And she goes, not exactly ladylike. And, Charisse ends up getting beat up because of that. I thought that was really, really great, because she needed that edge. That was the only way she was going to survive. A split-second circumstance, just being in the right place at the right time is what gave her, it was luck that gave her the opportunity to make it through. The cavalry shows up after the fact.
Yeah.
But I like that because that's reality. It's you don't always win with the men in white hats coming in and saving the day. Sometimes it is luck. It's sheer circumstance, being able to take advantage of an edge that is a little dirty. Her wins or survival moments are sometimes dirty. quite actually, in the 13 issues, they've been very dirty. I like that about the book because it separates the character. She has training. She's trained herself well. She's smart, but she doesn't have Bruce level training. She's been through some tough things. She's got some psychological scars that make her question herself. She's vulnerable at those times, yet she's stronger than I ever could be in those circumstances by the fact that she's able to work past that. Because if my back was broken and I was in a wheelchair and I was able to walk again, I don't know that I'm putting on a cape and cowl and running around the city risking that back again. And that's pretty much so for me to say, hey, you know what? I'm calling it a day.
Yeah. Stephanie
Brown, step right up.
Hey, I know for a fact I wouldn't do that.
Right.
She, was, paralyzed. She, in the chair, she's given the second chance at life, at the mobility, and just,
yeah.
And she's risking it all just to go back to the cape and cowl. I tell you, man, I used to wrestle when I was younger. I really started messing up my knee, and I'm like, I think I'm done wrestling. I'm going to go swimming that doesn't have a lot of shock value on my joints. And that's what I did. I didn't push through the pain. I didn't say I'm going to tough it out. I'm going to risk further damaging my body. I'm like, no, I'm going to think long term. I'm going to think, when I'm older, I want to be able to walk down the street without my body creaking and cracking. And that's just, the fact that she goes ahead and she's just throwing herself into this. This is something we've always talked about, these normal, regular, everyday people who are doing this extraordinary stuff. They're risking it all. They're putting their body on the line for this ideology. And that is, the definition of a hero. Whether it's the cape and cowl mask superhero, whether it's a firefighter who's running into a burning building, or a cop who's, standing down, to protect and serve innocent lives. These are true everyday heroes we have out there. And I loved seeing this kind of nobility and this courage. When we get these in these comic book heroes, we get these role models, we get these people who have something that you can look up to, and that they have qualities that you can admire. And Barbara has it, in full. And it's something that I loved about Oracle, but I'm still seeing that same strength. I'm still seeing that positive role model in Batgirl that I saw in Oracle.
If anyone wants to send us photoshops of Jim being the Michael Phelps of the comic podcasting world, you want to send those to ragingbullets@gmail.com. We also welcome fan artwork. They will go on the show website.
I was very careful when I was actually in high school not to let my picture get taken in a swimsuit. So anything you get will be photoshopped. Mm-hmm. Because I was swim team, so I did have to wear those little Speedos, and it wasn't pretty. And just visuals are probably making you go, ugh, shimmering and shaking. Yes, you should be shimmering and shaking, because that just, no.
Thank God I have Ricky supporting Barbara to clear my head. I'm like looking at this. You couldn't take two more messed up people trying to help each other out of this mess. Because Ricky has, remembering correctly, Ricky only has one functioning leg, right?
Yeah, and I love you can see that in the two issues, images. You can really see, especially the one. You can see the one leg is, he's got at the knee.
So I'm looking at that visual, and honestly, I loved it because you're sitting here and saying these two are battered. Ricky actually could potentially be in better condition at that moment than Barbara was because of how she was stabbed. I really liked seeing that out of the kid, because you can't help but wonder if it wasn't seeing this battle with Barbara and Charisse, and seeing Barbara after what she'd gone through stepping up again, that made Ricky step up in that moment. Like you talked about in this inspiration. You can't help but wonder, maybe that was something that got Ricky to say, okay, this is finally time for me to make my move. If there's one chance for me to step up and survive all of this, this is the time now. This girl is my chance. I'm not going to cower in the corner. I'm going to step up and do something. And he does that, which is, considering Ricky's journey and how we first saw him ages ago, before Charisse had her way with him. It's really a cool journey to see with this character. I love how this all turns out at the end. And I liked the tiny details of Batwoman and the police officer taking the two people out with them as well. And also, this is a cop who, honestly, she's at that stage in her career where she's like, you know what? I don't care about the effect on my career. I am taking you down. This is who I am. And yet there's that sense of this is only going to be a temporary solution because Charisse is going to get her way out of here. I loved every minute of that because there's that sense of foreboding from the whole thing as well.
Now, I love the one sequence where she's sitting there doing her villain rant, like, I own the servers and the databases. I will tear Gotham apart. And you get that cool look on Barbara's face. Then I'll learn to beat those two. We'll talk soon. And again, first thing that popped in my head was, okay, we're now going to see the birth of Oracle right here in where she's fighting on the computer side.
Now, here's the part where I'm wondering with Barbara and this cat, who reminds her of Alaska, the Siamese one they had when they were a kid. Yeah. Obviously, the cat's from James Jr. And that's one of those bits where you can't help but wonder, is this James Jr. messing with Barbara? Or messing with Barbara and Batgirl? I don't know. I still don't know. There's that part of me, I'm with you, there's a part of me that still leans towards that pause was because he knows. And there's another part of me that pause is because he doesn't know. With this whole bit that's going on with the men poking in at Barbara Gordon, the mom, dressed up like from Killing Joke. Was the Joker the one who sent them in? Was that the Joker's gang?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's completely... You think about what Joker's doing with Death of the Family. He's going not after the original pieces. He's going after the support and the people around those original pieces. That's why he didn't send his gang after Barbara Gordon, the daughter. Right. Sent after the mom. And we'll see in Batman, he doesn't take down the mayor, he takes out the mayor's men. And he doesn't take down Gordon, he takes down the cops in the police station. He's going after all the support people around his principal elements that he's targeting. He's going after those characters, not the main ones. And it's the Joker doing the Joker. And it makes me wonder whether the mom's going to survive, whether the mom's not going to make it. I'm thinking issue 14, we're going to see Barbara racing over there to either save the mom or deal with her death. And again, that's going to be a huge moment of realization, especially when she sees who did it and realizing, okay, the Joker's back in town now, and this is everything that's happening.
Here's my question. How is James Jr. going to react to all that? Again, him being a wild card. There's that part of him, we've seen him as a little kid where he gets fascinated about this kind of stuff, but this isn't the little kid James Jr. anymore. How is he going to react to this? Is he going to react to this? You got to imagine with how he's appearing and all this that he's going to have some kind of reaction to it. I'm dying to see what that looks like, even if it's a small little cameo in the whole thing. He's got me. They've got me hooked with him. Hook, line, and sinker.
Big time. And I see him being fascinated by it, but being more fascinated by how everybody is going to react to the Joker. I don't see him interfering in the plans. But as a matter of fact, just sitting back saying, this should be kind of interesting to see how they deal with this matter. And maybe later on he would then add to their pain and torment or not. Maybe just sit back and enjoy the visual, enjoy the show.
What is his relationship with Mom? We don't know that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the wild card for me. I think this storyline is going to be very telling to that in his reaction. If he's got a strong relationship with Mom, I think we're going to see one thing. If he doesn't, I think we're going to see something else.
Well, my understanding is that the reason Mom left was because the young James Jr. told her, I'm going to kill everyone if you don't leave right now. And she believed him because he probably showed her some evidence of what he's capable of or something to that effect. That's my understanding of the mom-son relationship is not the most healthy thing in the world. So seeing the mom get potentially beaten to death, shot, killed, maimed, I don't think he's going to be upset by it. And I think he's going to be more fascinated by how Barbara and how Gordon deals with it.
See, I don't think that relationship's cut and dry at all, because it's still her kid, even if she's intimidated by it. And he's one of those that I could see wanting to have control of his own playthings. And I would think Mom might be in a role of a plaything and a tool to manipulate Barbara and to be able to manipulate. So I don't know. I don't know how this is going to play out. There's a part of me that's leaning 100% the way you are. There's another part of me that's like, ooh, I don't know how simple this is. Now, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, it's never simple when you get a guy like James Jr. And when you get, stories, with these different levels, there's never anything simple. And that's one of the things I love about this, because there is so much that we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know where this is going to go. And there's going to be swerves, Just the fact that the Joker's involved, there's going to be swerves. Add to it the cast of characters that Barbara's dealing with already. It's just, the unknown, just that unknown, that craziness that she's, been thrust into. It's one of the things that really I'm enjoying about Batgirl. I've always said that it's a combination of the action, the little funny moments, the drama. There's all these, but there is that overwhelming mystery and craziness and chaos that is life that we're seeing in these stories. And add to now the Joker's chaos, James Jr.'s chaos, and, all the other cast of characters that are coming back to haunt her in the near future. This is, there's going to be some cool stuff coming down the line for Batgirl.
And I love that. I think that's something that's insanely interesting. Now, at the end of the story, we see Mirror, Gretel, and Grotesque being released. Is that Charisse that's involved with that? Do you think?
Or that's my guess. That's how I read it.
Because I don't take that as James Jr.
I took it that it was Charisse because she said, I'm going to build an army.
Right.
And right there, those are her three generals. And off of them, she's going to have... I kind of equate it to how Bane took down Batman, where it's multiple layer attacks. And multiple, so Barbara just, was able to defeat all three of these. But as we said it before, it was an ugly victory. Well, now she's going to have to deal with 1, 2, 3 punch right after row, and then she's going to have to deal with a rematch with Nightfall. So it's good luck, honey.
Absolutely. You want to talk about Batman number 13?
Oh, God, yeah.
Our next review is going to be of Batman number 13, brought to you by Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo, Jonathan Glapian, FCO Placencia, Richard Starkings and Comic Craft's Jimmy Betancourt, Katie Kubert, Mike Martz, cover by Capello and Placencia, variant cover by Aaron Cooter and Nathan Fairbairn, I know I'm butchering that. It's Fairbairn. Batman created by Bob Kane. I actually want to shout out the backup feature, too, which features our friend Harley Quinn and the Joker. Scott Snyder and James Tinian IV are writers. Jock on artwork, Sal Cipriano letters. Katie Kubert, assistant editor, and Mike Martz, editor. And this, what an issue this was. I immediately told you that, we have to change things up and talk about this because, there's times where a first issue to an event will make you go, whoa! The Joker's one of those characters that it's amazed me over the years how adaptable this character has been. You take a character, if you look back to his early years and just how silly the character could be from time to time with giant birthday cakes and stuff like that, into how dark he has gotten and how he's still able to be, this whole removal of the face thing. Now you've taken him to this different psychological level and added an intelligence to him that we don't always see, but we know is there. This is a story that they kicked off with moment after moment after moment of understanding of just what the Joker does to the heroes and the supporting cast of this series, particularly Jim Gordon, who always seems like a rock to me. I found him all the more endearing in this issue with all that fear stuff that they were talking about with him, because that to me shows an honesty to the character, an honesty to his relationship with Batman that I've always felt is this series is at its strongest when they utilize that like this, showing that these are two comrades at arms that understand each other in a way they won't let other people see. And that's out of respect, mutual respect, because they know the other will not use it against them and will help them get past it. That was cool.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. And I love the fact that Gordon, has these fears of the Joker, and Batman doesn't look down at him because of it.
No.
That's again is also another level of mutual respect these two have. Batman's not sitting there going, what do you mean you're afraid of this clown? Come on. No, he understands his fear. He still respects Gordon, and he never once would make Gordon feel like any less of a man because of it. Again, and that was something that I really loved seeing. Again, it shows their friendship. It shows their respect. It shows just why these two know each other, and they work so well together because of these common grounds.
Jim, by the way, I just want to let you know your next birthday cake I ordered already from Forget Me Not Catering. So I just want to let you know that it's already taken care of, and it's totally on me.
Yeah, no. I think I will pass on that.
When that foot came out of there, that's exactly who that was. I loved the color tone shift there. Yeah. You see that little bit of purple? Yeah. That was really great.
Just kind of a little tease, let you know who it is. Surprise, surprise. Mr. J is back. And I love the fact that Killing Joke is a kinder, gentler Joker than what we're getting here.
Yeah, this isn't the guy that laughed it up with Batman at the end. Yeah, this guy is totally another level of deranged, which
oh God,
that was horribly deranged. But you can see that this is a Jim Gordon who's been through that. He knows the horrors of the Joker. He knows where this guy can take these things, and I love that.
Yeah, one of the things I thought was kind of neat was how this issue opened up. You get this calmer, lighter moment between Gordon and Bullock about people, taking his, cigarettes and his hidden stashes that everyone's finding. And I still got that one special spot that no one can find. And you see this friendly moment that just gets twisted and turned and just darkened later on when we find out that that special secret hiding spot is underneath his bed at his house. And the Joker knew about that because he was lying under the bed in Gordon's house. I love just how this friendly, fun moment between pals just becomes so dark and twisted. It's just it's the beginning of the story, and it has me excited. It has me going, oh God, this is going to be some really cool stuff. It's the unknown of holy crud moments coming down the line.
Yeah, and that's something that really gets me. When you can, like you said, you can take these parts that are elements of Gordon's life and, kind of show what he's dealing with on that end and why this man would still try to sneak a smoke. I get it. I'm ready to buy him a pack. and I'm not a smoker, never have been. I totally respect how it can become an addiction for people, and I get what it's like to try and... My stepdad was a heavy smoker when right up until he got a defibrillator. So, I saw him many times try to quit, and I consider my stepdad a very strong person. So, I know what that addiction can be like and all that stuff. With Jim Gordon, everything goes through in his life, I'm kind of like, is the stress any worse on this guy than the smokes? I mean, what that's doing to his heart already. It's like, wow. The Joker breaking in, though, and the jokes and the fact that he's not getting these, punchlines out because, he's using them as a way to say, you already heard this one, huh? Well, hey, here you go.
Crack as he snaps the guy's neck.
Just setting up moment after moment of psychologically having fun at Gordon's expense. And that's what it is. He's having fun. The joke is on Gordon. And that's where that's where it's dark and twisted. This is where you take this guy to a psychological level. You're like, ugh. He's insanely brilliant. And with the emphasis on the insane. He these crazy things that he does, eccentric, insane, he's not at all, and nor will he ever be well. But there's that part of him that's crafty, and it's obvious he's been planning this for quite some time. Each little step of all this. But then there's a chaos to what he does as well that makes him hard to track down, hard to get a beat on. That's something where the Joker works. That's where he makes, in his chaos, in the inability to find patterns sometimes, that's what makes him the perfect foil for Batman, who's looking for the patterns, looking for the clues that are going to lead to the next thing. It doesn't always work with the Joker. I love that.
He is, in all sense of the word, the antithesis to Batman.
Right.
Batman is the law and order, the detective. Joker is pure chaos. And that is what makes him so dangerous, because he's not just pure chaos. He is a controlled chaos at times. He is that cunning, that intelligence. There is that level of strategery, if you will, for the Joker. That, he knows exactly what he's doing, why he's doing it, where he's doing it. Yes, sometimes it is the craziness for his own sick pleasure, but there is always that cunning. There is always that planning. There is always that thinking behind it. Even in the craziest circumstances, there is still that intelligence, and it's that enigma, that duality of the Joker that makes him so dangerous. And it's the sheer just lack of any form of compassion, human social graces, or just any form of value on life that he's just destroying one person at a time without even thinking anything of it. And it's more to torment Gordon as opposed to kill the cops. This wasn't about, I'm going to kill as many cops as I can. If he was out to kill cops, he would have used the poison like he does with the mayor. No, this is about tormenting Gordon. This is about killing all the people around Gordon while he's powerless to do anything about it.
The Joker is safely the one person in the new DC universe that would also use the word strategery to explain what he's doing. Strategery.
I love that word.
It's not a word.
Yes, it is.
It's just as nonsensical as anything the Joker would make up. You could be his sidekick.
He's the one person I would not want to be a sidekick to.
I don't think he'd give you the choice. Come on, Whatnot. Be like the new. It would be the Joker, Harley Quinn, and Whatnot, the perfect family album. Oh, God. Anybody wants to send that in, it'd be great as well. Baby Whatnot. With his strategery T-shirt on. I'm hoping we get some stuff for the website out of this. I'm having endless fun with it.
I'm just thinking back to the.
We need more.
Batman.
We need more. Where's Whatnot Nows?
Well, I'm just thinking right now back to the Batman Beyond, where they showed young Tim, who was turned into a little Joker.
Right.
That's right now. I'm just thinking Baby Whatnot. Just thinking that with Harley and Joker. I'm like, oh God.
When Bruce shows up and the whole room lights up, Jim, it's me. Where's Joker? You can, he's immediately trying to snap him back into action, shock him out of what horror that he's surrounded by. Look what Jim Gordon is surrounded by on the floor and on the table around him. Joker has completely surrounded him with this insanity of the death of his men. And the Joker did this as a way to get into his head. This is the game he's playing. It adds validity to what you were saying before about what's happening with Barbara and, the mom and everything like that. It's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out. Alfred, again, as the confidant. If there is one guy, I can't wait to go here. We have to talk about this now at the ending with him. Because the second I see Alfred, I have to talk about it. Are they really doing this to Alfred? I mean, how else can that go?
The Joker taking, pretty much a hammer to Alfred. It's hammer time. And the Joker doesn't leave you alive. He's going to make sure Alfred's dead. The only chance that Alfred has is if Damien is in the manor and Damien can, come to the rescue, or somebody's there to do something to slow down Joker. Whether, they got the big dog that's there, the Bat Mutt, that Damien's adopted. So maybe the dog may come in for the save, but even that, it's not looking good for Alfred. And, any other character you can think, okay, if they're not up against the Joker, they got a chance of surviving. If you're going up against the Joker, your chance of survival drops dramatically just because of the nature of who the Joker is and what he's about. So I hope they don't kill him off, but, I'm wondering how he's going to survive. Because that's going to be a difficult, that's going to be a tough battle for Alfred to live through. Because Alfred's tough, but this is the Joker. This is a Joker who's completely unhinged.
Dude, he's not only coming after with a hammer. Do you see his tool belt?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, oh my gosh, the saw, the hacksaw that's in there, he looks like he's got some kind of Swiss Army knife thing in there. Screwdrivers. I don't know what's in that little wallet-like thing that's hanging by the chain. It's. Whew.
I think that's his wallet.
You think it's his wallet?
Yeah. You kind of hooked your wallet to by the chain, and
yeah, because you don't want to lose your money.
You don't want to lose it.
Attacking a butler. I love you talk about strategy. The bits where Batman's in the cave, and there's the discussions between the Bat family. I'm kind of jumping ahead to when we see the person dressed like the Joker, and the Joker having his arms through the jacket, because this guy's obviously got his arms cuffed behind him. I admit I did not catch that until I got to the end of that page, and I went back and I'm like, what was just happening here? And I read it again a second time, like, oh my God, the children's gag that he's talking about, he's got the arms. Alfred's pointing it out, and I don't know if I was so focused on the foreground of this guy chatting. I'm like, why is this guy doing this to his own head? I'm a dunce. So, I did catch it like in the first read-through, but I did have to go back through and reread the page because of the stimulus on it. There was so much going on that page. I loved every minute of that because it's vintage Joker. So sick, though, in how it's being presented. And this is a way to reimagine a villain because you want to see this guy taken down. This again goes to the argument, though, I'm not a big fan of heroes killing villains. I'm a big fan of, the vigilante that doesn't cross the line, that's the reason why they have a good relationship with police departments in their cities, is because they only skirt so far. The police see value of them. They know they aren't going to cross the line. If they do cross the line, that's when they have a bad relationship with the police department, if that makes sense. Batman's presence has always been allowed because the police see the positive benefit to having another warrior out there fighting this battle for the soul of Gotham. The Joker's always that wild card where you're like, why does he let this guy live? And there's no way that this is going to play out in a way where you can't question that.
That's always something whenever the really good Joker stories that I always question. And what if Batman killed him? Or what if Batman let him die? Would you look at Batman any less? Would you think any less of him? Now, for me as a person, if I was up against all this stuff, I would have made Joker disappear a long time ago. But that's just me, who I am. That's not I don't live by the code of the Bat like Bruce does. Could Bruce allow Joker to die, or could Bruce kill Joker and still, live by his code, still be okay with what he did? And that, I think, is the $1 million question that you always have to ask. You always got to wonder. And, it's the great unknown that I don't think we'll ever see it, but part of me always wishes we would.
I love that Damien's the voice of the fans. Come on, Pennyworth. Maybe Joker used to be some great adversary of my father's, but he's over now. I mean, he allowed some second-rate Dr. Frankenstein to get the better of him and cut off his face. Then he slunk off for a year to lick his wounds, and now he's come back and steals his face. So what? I love that moment because that's kind of who the Joker's been recently. And this story is about changing that impression. That's where it's really working for me.
Oh, God, yeah. Again, Damian is going to be a wild card in this because I want to see... I'm really curious to see the Damian Joker moments and seeing what level of nastiness the Joker's going to go with Damian. Because I think that's going to be Joker's MO with all this stuff is just bringing up the darkness, bringing up the mysteries, bringing up those hidden secrets that torment the hero, and throwing it in their face. Well, what is he going to torment Damian with? Because, Damian's killed a couple people. Does that really bother him? I don't know. Or is there something else that the Joker knows about Damian that we don't know yet?
That's going to be the interesting part is, how is that going to be utilized? And how aware of the relationship between Bruce and Damian is the Joker, really? Because his encounters with Damian would have been more with Nightwing being Batman than Bruce being Batman.
Yeah, and it was at the end of the Joker run, if you will. He didn't deal with the Joker in his prime. Mm-hmm. So he's now getting he will be getting a firsthand lesson of the Joker when Joker's at his nastiness. So again, Damian is one of the characters I'm really looking forward to seeing how this plays out.
I like how Batman tells us how the Joker did it, through his chats with his team members.
Yeah.
He used the Gotham Police Department's pulse guns, removed it from a SWAT car, and then, put it under the apartment with the sewer aimed up. That's how he shut everything down and gave himself the advantage. And that was really cool. But
again, showing the intelligence of the Joker.
The situation with Batgirl is one, what is this going to do to her relationship with, if anything happens, what's this going to do to her relationship with Batman or the Bat family? Because Bruce was kind of leaving her out of everything for the purpose of protecting her, especially when it came to what was going on with her dad, wanting her dad to kind of tell her, leaving that as being the dad's responsibility, but her saying, wait a minute, this guy came after my dad and you left me out of the loop on that? That would be something that for her would be very upsetting, very traumatic, especially considering her history with what horrors the Joker put her through. I'm insanely interested to how this affects, whether it brings them closer and how they solve it, because Bruce is keeping everyone out of all this. You're doing crucial work of your own, trying to keep them away from all this when there is no way for them to stay out of this, because their worlds are all target for the Joker. I don't think they are. Their worlds are.
Oh, definitely. And that's, it's part of one of Batman's flaws that he does have, which he's made strives at in recent stuff, is he does tend to take some of these big projects on himself. And he sees it as, I want to protect them by keeping them out of it. Well, the Joker's not going to let him keep them out of it. The Joker's going to pull everybody into this by going after their support structure, by going after the family. It's not just Batman is the family. It's all these extenuating people, all these other people associated with Batman are Joker's target. He wants to destroy them. And I think this is going to make Bruce really either open up and be more trusting of his team, or this could drive a massive wedge in them. It's going to be how do they deal with the adversity? How do they deal with the death? Because there's going to be a body count, when you're dealing with the Joker. And will it be main named characters that are dying, or will it just be supporting cast that aren't, out there? I don't know who's going to die, but there's going to be some death.
Here's the question, though. Is it going to be the death of them, or is it going to be the Joker finds something else funny? Or finds something else keeping a long-term effect that are psychologically disturbing. I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do. It's going to be really, really interesting to see how this all plays out.
Could it be the death of the family concept as opposed to the actual death of the family?
Mm-hmm. Separating him from
Yeah. Making Bruce more of that recluse, making Bruce more of that loner, pulling away his family elements, pulling away his support structure. Just in a way, kind of hurting Bruce, but not physically hurting him emotionally, hurting him mentally, just destroying the fabric that is the Bat family.
Was the calling card that the Joker's talking about what happened to the police? How they all started breaking down into that frown? Or is there something else? Because is that the calling card that points him then to Ace Chemicals?
Yeah. That's my guess. And that's how I read it.
Now, how does the Joker know to go after Alfred? Is he doing that because of Bruce Wayne?
Well, part of me always thinks that the Joker knows Bruce is Batman. Mm-hmm. I've always just felt that those two know each other so well that the Joker can see beyond the mask. And he can see that it is Bruce. But the other argument could very easily be Batman Inc.
Right.
Bruce Wayne has admitted that he supported the Batman project and that he is associated with it. So this could be Alfred going after Bruce Wayne, not going after Alfred. And just Alfred happens to be there. So he's going to first kill Alfred, and then he's going to go look for Bruce Wayne. Now, in a way, this could be how Alfred lives. Joker could just bash Alfred in the head. Alfred goes down. His real target is Bruce Wayne, not Alfred. Maybe Alfred won't get beaten to death. I don't see that happening, but I don't know. I want Alfred to live. I really do. I don't see how he's going to happen. Because you don't get much chance when you're going up against the Joker like this.
Again, unless there's a reason why the Joker would find it funny for him to live.
Exactly.
So that's the only back door that I can think of that can happen with this. But Harley Quinn, seeing her in this whole thing, and her going, he's not the same Bats. He's not my Mr. J anymore. And what he's going to do to you, his plan, I can't... And that's the part where, you can even see Harley at this point where she's like, wow, I'm uncomfortable. Like, Harley's uncomfortable with this. That says an awful lot.
Oh, yeah. Part of me wonders, like, when everything that played out there with Harley and Ace Chemicals, seeing, I'm surprised she didn't get dropped into the vat. She didn't get, scorched with the chemicals. Because you think about if Joker's going after support, Joker's going after the people around everybody, naturally I would think he would go after his own support as well. Go after Harley. Dump Harley in a vat of chemicals, burn Harley, or try to kill Harley. Just because. If he truly has gone over the edge, part of me thinks that when Batman gets out of that vat that he's in right now, when he does that, he's going to release another trap on Harley. And she may end up getting burned, or something may end up happening to her.
Unless there's a reason in his case for him to continue using her like he did in this case. Like, knowing that he could go to Harley, get her to put on the clothes, get her to dress up like him, so then he could utilize her to be a distraction for Bruce. Like in that sequence in the back, where she's so creeped out because he's ready to cut up her face to make them alike.
Yeah.
That was stuff that, psychologically, that was just blew my mind. The Joker at his best has looked creepy over the years when certain, writers and artists have done things with him. This whole having his face on with these clamps and the belt around his head is, to me, and especially with what that does, the constant need for the eye drops, because you're not able to blink. And because there's no eyelids and stuff like that, and telling her, how this will all work out. Oof.
He is beyond creepy in this. When they first started talking about this back, it was New York Comic Con, I think, last year's. When they first started mentioning just the level of wickedness and nastiness that they were going to go with this, you're kind of like, oh, okay. This is the introductory. This is the opening, book, and I'm like, oh God, this is going to be good. It's there. This is something. Again, it's they said they're going to hit you with both, they're going to, blast you with both barrels, and they weren't lying. They weren't holding back. This is a really just, wow, creepy, cool, sadistic Joker that this is going to be another one of those monumental stories.
Yeah, that's just amazing. With her sitting there going, Mr. J, are you still out there?
Yeah.
Just great stuff.
One of the scenes that it was like on the second read through that I really realized how creepy it was that television scene.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have the opening where the guy's first not pronunciating, not being very loud, and, Joker punches him in the face and goes, remember those dark things we talked about? You don't want those to happen. And you can just imagine in my head what he threatened this guy with, what he was going to do to this guy's family, his friends, his loved ones. Who knows where Joker's mind was going to go? But that guy immediately started, I am the Joker, being much louder and being just doing exactly what the Joker wanted him to do, even though he pretty much knew he was about to die. But just what Joker said he would do to this guy if he didn't. It adds to that whole creepy level, even an already just, absolutely, just wow scene. It added to it, and it just kind of accentuated it for me.
Great stuff. It was really, for a first issue kicking off something like this, it just blew my mind. And this is a writer who really understands Batman. I really love that. I loved his combination with James Tynion IV in the back. This is, the one who's going to be writing Talon.
Yeah.
I really think that this was that was another great psychological piece showing Harley. And it was a great way to do that as a backup feature with the wonderful artwork of Jock, who I really enjoy. I just thought that really was another special part of the issue. I like the extra page count in the Batman book.
I don't mind paying the extra $1 if they're going to give me something as cool as that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, to me it adds only to the issue and adds to the story. And it was appropriate placement. If those pages had been interspersed in the issue, something would have been lost.
Oh, yeah. That was a great spot for it. And I thought I read somewhere that they're already going to second printing on this.
Oh, they've got to be.
I could have swore I read that online, that they're going to a second printing on this one and I think the Batgirl. Just because of the death of the family connections.
I'm glad they're doing big stories with this, in comics in general. These are the things, that get people excited who maybe haven't been reading a book in a while. And that's something that really just has me excited.
Could you just once say, let's get in the car? Is that so hard?
One more time, sponsoring us this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, they're offering that 50% off new DC trades and hardcovers, including Batman the Night of the Owls hardcover at that special discount. $29.99 hardcover. 50% off, $14.99. It collects Batman 8 and 9, Batman Annual number 1, Detective Comics number 9, Batman the Dark Knight number 9, Batwing number 9, Batman and Robin number 9, Red Hood and the Outlaws number 9, Birds of Prey number 9, Batgirl number 9, Nightwing 8 and 9, and All-Star Western number 9, Jim the Sensei of the Whatnot Segulin number 9. So all of these issues are contained within this how many number 9 issues? I think that's great. I love that that's all being collected, including the tie-ins. That Night of the Owls was such a special event, and it's great that that's all being collected here. I think it's super cool. So that's 50% off. Make sure to do that pre-ordering from our show sponsor, DCBService.com. Can't beat that deal. Over at InStockTrades.com, Batgirl Hardcover Volume 1, The Darkest Reflection, collects Batgirl number 1 through 6. On this episode, we share our love for Batgirl number 13. I've adored this series since it's relaunched. This is a 144-page book. $22.99, regularly 40% off, only $13.79 at InStockTrades.com. Want to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. We love having you a part of our show. Remember, that's always in our show notes and on our website. Our email address is ragingbullets@gmail.com. If you ever have anything you want to send us, like pictures of Jim, please make sure to send them to ragingbullets@gmail.com. We also have a terrific Facebook group. We have a Facebook page. We're on Google+. We're on Twitter. We have a website, ragingbullets.com. Actually, everything spins right out of our website, so please make sure to check out ragingbullets.com and bookmark it if you haven't. That's where I always do updates on what's going on with the show. And we want to thank everyone for their support in social media, because we couldn't do it without you guys. We put a lot of work into this podcast every week, and I just love that our listenership takes the time to really take, especially in our Facebook group, there's such a great group of people that are starting regular, really cool discussions that are feisty over in our group. And I really am enjoying having chats over there and debates. And it's always a respectful environment, even if when we argue or, start biting each other's throats, we will stop and catch ourselves and get back to having the topics that we should be having. It's such a great, friendly group of people who all have the same intention. We want to chat about our love for comics. So I really enjoy being a part of that group, and I want to thank everyone who posts in there so regularly. And please use our social media sites to promote anything that you're doing, from podcasts to blogs to anything that you think might be relevant to our listenership, whether it's in or out of DC. I'm a big fan of cross-promotion, always have been. And, if we haven't shouted out your blog or podcast on the show, just like the podcast of SNIKT, which we had on this one, that was the Wolverine podcast. That was the one that I wasn't sure on the one episode which one it was, and it's a cool Wolverine podcast. So please make sure we're shouting you out on our show, and I want to make sure to get a link on our website as well to whatever you're doing. If you're a friend of ours, we want to make sure to be a friend of yours and support you. So, good stuff. Our next episode, Jim, we're going to continue exploring Zero Month. And while exploring Zero Month, if there's any cool storylines or things that you and I kind of want to organically jump to, we're going to do that as well. No, this worked out really well. I actually liked how everything was driven on this episode. First of all, by listener voicemails that led us to some of the Zero issues that we were talking about, a desire to talk about Arrow, and then a desire to start talking about this great Batman event. So I think we're just going to continue with this beat, because I just really had a lot of fun recording, and I hope that they came across for anybody listening. So we will see you next week.
Bye.
Flying through space and time, 1,000 different lifetimes. Faded for love and flaws and incredibly clear sightlines. Swinging your mace around, such a practical outlook. Helping the JSA and occasionally supporting your own book. Hawkman, Hawkman. Eagle eyes can't see, Hawkman, your plan, and what you do to me, Hawkman. The villains are closing in, be they Thanon Guard or Egyptian, working so hard to thwart you and Hawkgirl's mission. The odds are not on your side, and danger seems to stack up. Things would be so much easier if you would just call for backup. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see your plan.